Chapter 1036. Old Yang Tian leaped over from the side. When he looked at the soul, his gaze was trembling, but it was mostly filled with excitement. It was the face of the soul. It was a middle-aged man with an extraordinary appearance. However, his eyes were extremely blank and chaotic. Boom! At that moment, endless killing intent erupted from Yi Chen's body. The killing intent seemed to cause the world to change color at that moment. He took a step forward and disappeared from where he was. Then, he appeared before Qin Jian. Qin Jian's expression changed, and he wanted to retaliate. At the next moment, a large hand gripped his neck tightly. It lifted his entire body into the air. Lin Tai. The soul in Qin Jian's hand belonged to Lin Tai. To be precise, it was only the life soul of the 3 souls and 7 spirit. After Lin Tai died, he had tried to summon the souls of Lin Tai, second uncle, second aunt, and Niu Qingshan. In the end, he only summoned back 2 souls and 4 spirit. There was still 1 soul and 3 spirits that were not summoned back. They were not within his power range at all. With an incomplete soul, it was impossible to revive a person. One of the 3 spirits was the life soul. As time passed, Yi Chen lost hope. He did not expect Lin Tai's life soul to appear in Qin Jian's hands. Apart from being excited, there was also a hint of hostility. Yi Chen's trembling voice was heard. "Tell me, how did you get Lin Tai's soul?" Qin Jian was shocked. He was shocked by Yi Chen's terrifying ability once again. Initially, he thought that even if he was not Yi Chen's match after breaking through to a corpse king, he would at least have a chance to fight back. However, he did not expect him to be so weak. He took a deep breath in and looked at Yi Chen fearlessly. He seemed to be disdainful. "You want to kill me? Do you think I don't dare?" Yi Chen exerted force in his arm, causing his throat to crack. "You dare? I don't doubt it." Qin Jian was not afraid at all. He said with a spurious smile, "However, if you kill me, you can forget about getting the souls of the rest. My second uncle, second aunt, and old Niu's souls are in your hands too?" Yi Chen increased the force in his hand. Qin Jian's neck quickly caved in. He said without a blush or gasping for breath, "Not only that, there is also a soul with the surname Chen in the hands of the master." "Old Chen." Yi Chen was shocked. He then tossed it aside and grabbed through the air, forcefully grabbing Lin Tai's life soul. "Get lost. Go back and tell your master that I'll accept this bet, and the bet is that I want the souls of second uncle, second aunt, and the others." As soon as he said that, Qin Jian revealed a satisfied smile. "Mad Southern Yi, master was right. Being loyal is your weakness. Just based on this, you will never be able to compare to my master." As soon as he finished speaking, he stepped into the sky and left. He did not ask what kind of bet Yi Chen would have to pay if he lost. Because winning didn't need it. Ing only wanted one result. Was he going to defeat Yi Chen more, or was Yi Chen going to defeat him more? Of course, the best way to compete was naturally a real battle between the 2 of them. However, to Ing, it was just a brute's bravery. Pure combat strength could only be considered courageous but not astute. There had been too many people like this since ancient times. They were not worthy of respect. As Qin Jian left, the temperature at the scene cooled down again. The camp of the Western powerhouses was dead silent. It was one thing for dozens of secret realms and Holy Land masters to be killed one after another, but even the Blood Clan had been unified by the Eastern zombies. They had joined forces to kill their way into the East, but in the end, an Eastern zombie was killing them from behind. This was no different from a fire in their backyard. How were they supposed to fight? Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that the Western army had lost. Whether it was their fighting spirit or peak combat strength, they could not compare to the Chinese powerhouses. Many people had different thoughts. In the end, a Western monk sighed and said, "I'm sorry, but the ancient Buddha Holy Land has withdrawn. We will no longer participate in this war between the East and the West. With that, he led thousands of Western monk soldiers towards the West in front of everyone. Fuck! The red-robed Archbishop Schiller of the Vatican City was enraged. Obviously, he did not expect things to turn out this way. The Naga secret realm is withdrawing as well. A blonde lady from the Naga secret realm in South America said, and left with her people. Let's go, let's go. We can't do this. With two forces withdrawing one after another, the Western camp was in an uproar. Many secret realms wanted to leave. After knowing that there was still a massacre in the West, it could be said that all the forces in Europe were in a complete panic. After all, no one could guarantee that Ing would not destroy the forces they were in. Where do you think you're going? At this moment, a bolt of lightning exploded. A purple gleam appeared between heaven and earth, and took the lead to charge at the people from the ancient Buddha Holy Land. Yi Chen had attacked. The Western sect had joined forces to provoke him and China. How could he let these people leave just like that? Boom! As the purple gleam tore through the sky, a sword chime resounded through the sky. A 300-meter-long sword gleam slashed down from the sky, heading straight for the old monk from the ancient Buddha Holy Land. Mad Southern Yi Yu! The old monk's expression changed instantly. Clearly, he did not expect Yi Chen to be relentless even though he had taken the initiative to withdraw. At that moment, waves of golden light erupted from the Kasaya on his body. Subsequently, he leaped into the distance. Rumble, ah! As an incomparably sharp scream rang out, the former was directly slashed apart by the 300-meter-long sword gleam. Run, run! The other Western powerhouses were initially hesitant about whether to run, but after witnessing this scene, the hesitation in their hearts completely disappeared without a trace. In an instant, the black mass of people scattered in all directions, fighting to be the first to flee. The Western army, which had come with such force that the world trembled in fear, completely collapsed. We can't let them escape. The Patriarch of Hell roared repeatedly. We must kill all of them here. Otherwise, it's no different from releasing a tiger back into the mountains. That's right. Today, the Chinese sea will be their burial ground. Luo Tianya roared. Yi Chen stood in the air and shouted like thunder, Everyone, it's time to counterattack. This time, not only will we kill them, but we'll also kill our way into the West and destroy their inheritance. Kill them, kill our way into the West, and destroy all enemies. Elder Qing Xian let out a long roar. Charge, kill our way to the West. This time, I, Dengfeng, must completely defeat them to repay the peace of our descendants for hundreds of years. Kill, kill, kill. Don't let a single one of them escape. Seeing this scene, countless people shouted repeatedly. They were both excited and excited. They felt like their blood was about to spurt out of their bodies. The retreat of the Western army had completely announced the collapse of their alliance. Meanwhile, the Chinese powerhouses were still united and united. In an instant, the sea surged and the wind and clouds surged. All the powerhouses in the east moved out together and joined forces to kill their way to the west. P.S. Chapter 3 has been updated today. End of this chapter. Chapter 1037. Kill them. We won't stop until we kill them all. Western Expedition. Western Expedition. Many Chinese martial artists joined forces to chase after the Western army. They chased all the way from China's sea to the Atlantic Ocean. The Western army was utterly defeated. Anyone who fell behind was killed. Blood almost dyed the entire world red, and the sea was filled with corpses. The commotion caused by so many people was naturally extraordinary. The entire sea seemed to be trembling, and the might was even more shocking than a million-strong army. Meanwhile, the countries around the world who were observing this scene through satellite surveillance were collectively petrified. Oh my God, what did I just see? Our Western army is being hunted down by Chinese martial artists. My, that's an alliance made up of hundreds of countries, more than 30 secret realms and holy lands. How could it be defeated by mad Southern Yi just like that? Unbelievable, this is simply unbelievable. Countless people were horrified. The upper echelons of countless countries trembled because of this, and their faces turned pale. Shocking! Mad Southern Yi led countless Chinese cultivators to turn the tide and directly crippled the Western army. Now, he's even chasing them to the Atlantic Ocean to kill them all. This is unbelievable. Glory, this is the glory of the Chinese cultivation world. This time, China will definitely shock the world. Who would dare to provoke us again? Mad Southern Yi, China is magnificent. Compared to the fear of the Western countries, China was filled with joy. Countless people were collectively shocked when they received the news, and then they rejoiced. On the Atlantic Ocean, many Western troops fled in a sorry state, as if they wanted to return to Europe through Turkey on the Atlantic Ocean. In this battle, they were truly afraid of being killed. The land of death, China is the land of death. Hell, this is hell. Damn Japan, damn India, damn England. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have joined the Eastern expedition no matter what. The leaders of the various forces did their best. They wished that they had 2 more legs, afraid that Yi Chen and the rest would catch up to them. They were filled with regret this time. They thought that it would be easy to destroy the Chinese cultivation world with the help of many secret realms and holy land. However, they did not expect to suffer a double loss. Kill. Suppressing the West with my sword. I won't return until I flatten the West. The Chinese powerhouses chased relentlessly. Their shouts shook the sky, and their killing intent soared into the sky. Even though many of them were bathed in blood, their eyes were filled with extreme excitement. A real man should wield his sword to kill. How delightful was that! Yi Chen, the patriarch of hell, and many powerhouses from the Kunlun ruins chased at the front. They mercilessly harvested the Western powerhouses who fell behind. In just 2 hours, 2/3 of the Western army had been killed, as if they were harvesting wheat. In the void, there were still 2 people fighting, and the might of their battle had even affected many Western experts. The people fighting were the Saint of Purple-Capped Mountain, Zi Qingsong, and the Oracle of Mount Olympus, Hermes. Boom! Zi Qingsong raised one hand, and a world-shaking fist energy heavily bombarded Hermes's body. Bang! Hermes grunted and spat out a mouthful of golden blood. His eyes were filled with regret. Saint of the East, don't go too far. Are you regretting it? Zi Qingsong smirked coldly. His wounds were also affected, and his face turned pale. I've said it before. Since you dare to come this time, don't even think about going back. You're courting death. The oracle, Hermes, was furious, and his expression was sinister. Our strengths are on par. If we fight to the death, you won't be any better. Then let's give it a try. Zi Qingsong's gaze turned cold, and he did not say anything else. He took a step forward, and the aura on his body increased instead. The monstrous pressure compressed the surface of the sea 800 meters in the sky until it deformed. Kill! Yi Chen let out a long roar and tore a flying beast king that was forced to a dead end apart. Blood splattered across the sky. At that moment, he was like a demon master, a terrifying subordinate. His eyes were so cold that no one dared to look at him directly. What Western sect? What gods? He did not take them seriously at all. There was only one word in his mind, and that was to kill anyone who stood in his way. This was a form of extreme confidence and conceit. He was invincible, and it was as if he wanted to trample the entire world beneath his feet. With him taking the lead, the Chinese powerhouses behind him were infected and became fearless of death. Netherworld Nirvana Finger, die. The Patriarch of Hell formed a gigantic finger seal out of thin air. It pierced through the air and landed in the Western rebel camp. Rumble, as the deafening sound rang out, the surface of the sea within a radius of 3,000 meters sank, forming a vacuum. There were no corpses of the Western powerhouses. Boom! Yi Wuxuang's eyes were as deep as the night sky, and an invisible sword gleam flashed in his eyes. At the next moment, the bodies of the 3 demi-saint powerhouses from the west that had joined forces to attack him froze, and they did not move at all. One of them spat out a mouthful of blood and stared blankly at the white-clothed young man before him. "Do you have a sword or not?" "I am the sword, and the sword is me," Yi Wuxuang said calmly. Plop, plop, plop. The 3 corpses all fell from the sky. If one took a closer look, they would realize that there were no injuries on their bodies at all. They killed without spilling blood, with a red dot between their brows. However, they died in such a strange manner. Even until they died, they did not know if Yi Wuxuang used a sword or not. The Patriarch of Hell, who was in the distance, was instantly agitated when he saw this scene. Today, the Patriarch of Hell's name will be known throughout the world. The Patriarch of Hell was not to be outdone. He took a step forward and directly crushed a snake-type beast king in the west. Kill! Luo Tianyao was covered in blood. Elder Qing Xian was not to be outdone either. "I surrender, I surrender." Many Western powerhouses were scared out of their wits when they saw this scene. They wanted to surrender without hesitation. "If you don't accept my surrender, die." A Chinese powerhouse said coldly, "I'll kill all of you today to shock the world, raise the dignity of China, and bring peace to the world." The Western powerhouse who spoke earlier shuddered and was about to self-destruct in an incomparably crazy manner. However, right after that, countless attacks bombarded him one after another, directly bombarding him until not even a speck of dust was left. "My fellow Chinese compatriots, I'm a Chinese mongrel. We're all from the same clan. Please spare my life." A Western Shiba Inu beast king trembled and fawned on him. He even squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying on his face. **T. In the Chinese camp, a beast king that had evolved from a mutated dog charged over. "You're clearly a Japanese dog. I'll recognize you even if you turn into ashes. Also, what I hate the most in my life is people calling me a dog. I'm called a Chinese field dog." Chapter 1038. The Seuss Fire God sect was destroyed. The Dark Demon Wolf clan was destroyed. The War Hounds Giant clan was destroyed. The Vatican Knights charge was destroyed. In less than half a day, the Western Army made up of over 30 secret realms and holy lands was almost wiped out. On the road to the west, blood was shed with every step. The news of the great battle between the East and the West spread to Europe one after another, shocking the entire world. Just like that, the Chinese army chased them all the way through Turkey and officially stepped into Europe. Patriarch! Yi Chen suddenly called out to the Patriarch of Hell who was collecting the Beast King Beast Cores crazily. "Now that all the Chinese powerhouses are out, Japan will definitely make a move." At this point, his eyes were filled with killing intent. "Go back and make a trip to Japan. You can trigger the nascent soul, heavenly tribulation there." "Alright." The Patriarch of Hell agreed happily. He had been waiting for this moment for a long time. After all, he had already reached perfected golden core after returning from Mount Tai. He could trigger the heavenly tribulation to step into nascent soul at any time. Yi Chen ordered, "Elder Qing Xian and fellow cultivators from the 5 ancient clans, follow the Patriarch." "But Peak Master, didn't you agree to the bet with Ing? Now that you're about to step into Greece." Elder Qing Xian hesitated. Before that, Yi Chen had resolutely accepted the bet to attack the Vatican and Mount Olympus with Ing in order to retrieve his second uncle and second aunt's souls. Meanwhile, Yi Chen had transferred them away at that moment. It was no different from losing an arm, greatly increasing the difficulty of attacking the Vatican. "Don't worry about it." Yi Chen stood with his hands behind his back and said noncommittally, "Although many powerhouses have been killed in the great battle between the East and the West this time, there are still some who slipped through the net. We should make sure that they will never be able to make a comeback." Elder Qing Xian could not believe his ears. Wu Shuang. Yi Chen looked at Yi Wushuang again. Lead the witchcraft sect and corpse sect to America. Brother Tianya, lead the Tao sect, star sect, and spirit talisman sect to Australia. Sky roaming dragon king, lead the Chinese beast kings to Africa. Yi Chen's orders were given one after another. Everyone was shocked. The 5 continents were at war at the same time. Yi Chen was really going to suppress the world. After splitting up into 5 groups, the force behind Yi Chen decreased drastically. There were less than 10 quasi-saints left. Boom! At this moment, a thunderous sound came from the void, and a crack suddenly appeared in the void. Mad Southern Yi, Eastern Saint, just you wait. Mount Olympus will fight you to the death. God Messenger Hermes self-destructed his arm and blasted a hole in the void. Then, he leaped into the void and escaped. Ziqingsong coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood and chased after him. Where do you think you're going? Brother Z, there's no need to chase anymore. Yi Chen stopped him and took a deep look in the direction that Hermes had escaped to. Ing will definitely attack Mount Olympus this time. This person is simply courting death if he goes back. Fellow Yi, has that Qin corpse really grown to such an extent? Ziqingsong consumed a medicinal pill and quickly adjusted his breathing. Until now, he still could not believe that Ying's strength could recover so quickly. It must be known that in order to suppress him back then, the 9 clans had sent out many sages. His ability is beyond your imagination. It's best if you don't provoke him. Yi Chen shook his head lightly. Based on his guess, Ying was at least an existence at his peak. His strength was comparable to a perfected nascent soul cultivator. If he successfully cultivated the 3 pure ones, he would probably be comparable to a god transformation stage divine lord. At that time, he would be able to destroy mountains and rivers with a single thought. Ziqingsong's pupils constricted violently. He knew how terrifying Yi Chen was. However, even Yi Chen was a little afraid of Ying. From this, it could be seen that Ying was not as simple as he thought. The green ox wagged its tail and carried Meng Meng over. It grinned happily. Master, where are we going now? In reality, how could he not be happy? During the chase earlier, after many Western powerhouses had died, this ox had been collecting the spoils of war, including supreme holy medicine, beast king inner cores, and corpses. Its hand speed was even faster than the Patriarch of Hell's, causing the Patriarch of Hell to grit his teeth. He even had the thought of robbing them afterward. To destroy the Vatican, of course. Demon King Yi Chen squinted in the direction of the Vatican. As long as he destroyed the Vatican before Ying, he would be able to retrieve the remaining souls of Second Uncle, Second Aunt, and the others. Although their bodies were no longer complete and could not be revived immediately, he could think of a way to turn them into ghost cultivators. When they became ghost immortals in the future, they could still reconstruct their bodies. At the same time, on Mount Olympus. Mount Olympus was the tallest mountain in Greece. This mountain had the same status as Kunlun Mountain in China. In Greek mythology, it was a divine mountain. According to legend, the gods, demigods, and their servants in Greek mythology lived on this mountain. At this moment, under Mount Olympus, in the void, a man in a black luxurious robe sat on an incomparably magnificent dragon carriage. The dragon carriage was more than 300 meters tall. It had 4 ribs and radiated colorful light in all directions. It was extremely dazzling. It was no longer pulled by the warhorses. Instead, it was pulled by 3 gigantic creatures that were more than 200 meters tall. These 3 gigantic creatures had wings, scales, and spines. Their heads were large and long, like lizards with wings. If there were any Western powerhouses present, they would be extremely shocked to discover that these 3 gigantic creatures were actually dragons. Western divine dragons. All of them were existences comparable to beast emperors. However, they were now pulling Ying's carriage and working hard. At this moment, A man in black armor walked over quickly and knelt on one knee. My lord, Mad Southern Yi has stepped into the Greek territory. He is currently less than 200 kilometers away from the Vatican. Good, very good. Ing slowly opened his eyes that were closed to rest. A smile slowly appeared at the corner of his lips. The bet officially begins. Mad Southern Yi, don't disappoint me. With that, he gently stepped on the ground. Roar, the three Western divine dragons let out a sorrowful cry before pulling the huge carriage toward Mount Olympus. The Vatican. This was the oldest small country in the world. Although its territory and population were small, its influence could be said to be terrifying. This was because it had more than 2 billion believers in the world, and its believers were spread across more than 200 countries. It was because of the Holy Church in the Vatican. This meant that 1 in 3 people in the world was a believer of the Holy Church. At that moment, Yi Chen had already stepped out of the Holy Church with his men. He stood in the air and looked at this ancient force from afar. The strange thing was that while the Western army was defeated and the European countries were in a panic, the Holy Church was extremely quiet at this moment. It was so quiet that it seemed like it did not know anything. Master, be careful of a trap. The green ox said worriedly, Nyo Nyo, when I was asleep, I heard that the Holy Church can purify people. Many powerhouses in China have been forcibly purified by them. Don't worry. Yi Chen smiled lightly and took a deep breath. Rumbling thunder sounded in the sky above the Holy Church. Mad Southern Yi from China is here to visit the saint of the Holy Church today. Please come out and meet us. P.S. That's the second chapter for today. Subject 3 has passed. Everything has been settled. There will be more updates in the future. Thank you for your tolerance these days. End of this chapter. Chapter 1039. Mad Southern Yi from China is here to visit the saint of the Vatican today. Please come out and meet me. Rumble. As soon as Yi Chen said that, thunder rumbled in the sky above the Vatican. It was accompanied by lightning, and it was a terrifying scene. Then, holy light suddenly soared into the sky from within the Vatican. The holy light was shot out from the various churches. There were the chanting of angels mixed in, and it was the prayers of countless believers. It was as if they were judging the world. Boom, stomp, stomp, stomp. As the city gate opened, a series of hurried footsteps came one after another, as if thousands of horses were charging. In next to no time, knights in uniforms rode out one after another, causing the deathly silence in this world to be broken. They were all wearing silver armor, and their expressions were solemn. Their auras were cold, and they were like a torrent of steel. Especially the 12 people at the very front. Their entire bodies were incomparably pure, giving people the urge to kneel before them. If there were outsiders present, they would realize that this group of people was the Holy Knights of the Holy Church. They were known as the Iron Army that could sweep through everything. This was because every single one of them had the strength of a supreme giant. They could form a superimposed formation, and there was even a hexagram formation on their armor. The combat power that they unleashed was enough to make anyone fear them. After the Knights Templar appeared, the crowd parted, and saints dressed in white slowly walked out of the city. The leader was an old man in a golden robe. He had blonde hair and blue eyes, and he was about 70 or 80 years old. He floated in the air barefoot, as if he was a god who had descended and possessed supreme authority. This person was the leader of the Holy Church, Diamartin III. He stood in the clouds of Greece and looked down at billions of believers. Honorable Eastern powerhouse, you have disrespected God by descending on the priest's territory rashly. The ancient pope held a Bible in his hand. His expression was extremely dignified, as if he represented God walking in the human world. His every word and action was extremely bewitching. Disrespecting God? Yi Chen stood in the air with his hands behind his back. His eyes were cold. The Vatican has already listed me as a heretic. Since that's the case, why should I respect the God in your hearts? Even though all the powerhouses of the Vatican were here, he was still strolling leisurely as he faced the dignity of the Vatican. Nonsense. Before the Pope could speak, a cardinal walked out from behind him. Mad Southern ye, you were the one who killed the Vatican's cardinal with Myanmar first. You killed a member of the Church, which is equivalent to challenging the dignity of God. Why can't we list you as a heretic? He was one of the 3 remaining red-robed archbishops of the Vatican. His name was Adon, and his strength surpassed that of a sage-to-be. He had once suppressed half of Greece by himself. Very good. Yi Chen chuckled softly as if he was disdainful. I killed your people, so you sent people to join the Western army to kill me. Now I'm here to kill you. There's nothing wrong with your logic. He changed the topic, his gaze sharp. In the end, we're just looking at whose fist is bigger. Your Excellency from the East, the Pope said calmly, do you know that what you did today is equivalent to provoking the Holy Church, the Vatican, all of Greece, and even the 2 billion believers in the world? Although his voice sounded calm, there was a hint of threat in it, and he didn't hide the nobility of the Holy Church at all. That was the status of the Holy Church. It could be said that countless of the most devout believers would die for their faith. They wouldn't hesitate even if they were asked to commit suicide. So what? Yi Chen smirked coldly. I don't even care about the Vatican or Greece. I don't even care about the supreme God in your hearts, let alone the Vatican. At the end of the day, the so-called God in this Western mythology was just a group of relatively powerful existences. He, Yi Chen, didn't even care about immortals, let alone a group of existences that fooled the world and called themselves gods. As his voice fell, the originally quiet experts of the Vatican were instantly filled with a cold, murderous intent. How dare you blaspheme the gods? Your sin is unforgivable. Heretic, this person is a heretic. He's destined to not be tolerated by God. He will be judged by God. The world was suddenly covered by waves of surging killing intent, as well as angry voices. If looks could kill, Yi Chen would have died many times over. The leader of the Holy Knights Templar, Philip I, who was in charge of protecting the Vatican and maintaining God's image, drew his holy sword and shouted, in the name of the Father, the Holy Knights Templar, charge and kill the heretic who blasphemes the Father. The moment he said that, his voice shook the sky. Boom, boom, boom. The hundreds of holy knights behind him surged with holy light. All of them drew their judgment swords and charged at Yi Chen while activating the battle energy in their bodies. The incomparably dazzling light directly covered all the light in the world, and waves of majestic battle energy enveloped the entire Vatican. Such a shocking might was like an invisible gigantic millstone pushing forward. Even the few quasi-saint powerhouses behind Yi Chen could not help but change their expressions. Kill me! Yi Chen seemed to have not seen that. He still had his hands behind his back and his expression was cold. You're just a bunch of lackeys. How dare you try to kill me? Today I'll make the West have no God. As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step forward, and a monstrous murderous aura suddenly surged between heaven and earth. Under this murderous aura, many people felt their souls tremble. It was as if an ancient god of death had descended into the mortal world, and his killing intent swept through the wind and clouds. Rumble, subsequently, a terrifying pressure swept out like a tidal wave with Yi Chen as the center. At the next moment, the expressions of the many members of the Holy Knights Templar who were charging over instantly changed. They felt that the battle energy that surged out of their bodies had actually collapsed under this pressure. Kill! The leader of the knights, Philip I, roared repeatedly. He forcefully controlled his body and charged at Yi Chen with the holy sword. He was a quasi-saint. Attack! Zi Qingtsang, the saint of Purple Cap Mountain behind Yi Chen, shouted and was about to charge. At that moment, Yi Chen stomped his foot down again. He suddenly said with a thunderous voice, You ants kneel before a true God. Bang! At that moment the entire space trembled, as if it had collapsed from his stomp. It was as heavy as a mountain. Plop, plop, plop. Hundreds of knights, including the leader of the knights, Philip I, could not control themselves and prostrated on the ground. They felt that every pore and cell on their bodies were collapsing under Yi Chen's pressure. The holy knights that countless people in Europe revered were crawling on the ground like ants before Yi Chen at that moment. Meanwhile, outside the huge Vatican palace, Yi Chen was the only one standing in the world. He seemed to be invincible. Chapter 1040. Between heaven and earth in the entire Vatican. At this moment it was dead silent. Everyone looked at this scene in disbelief. A few seconds later there was an uproar. The most powerful Knights Templar of the Vatican was suppressed by mad Southern Yi alone. How is this possible? How is this possible? You have to know that the Knights Templar have been blessed by the God's messenger with holy light. Is this person a human or a god? Shocking, extremely shocking. Especially the people from the Vatican, they had been chosen to serve God since they were young. It could be said that they had witnessed the power of the Vatican, and there was only endless fanaticism and worship in their hearts. However, now, the Knights Templar, who were known as the most powerful in the Vatican, were suppressed by an Asian before they could even enter Yi Chen's body. No one would believe it if they were beaten to death. God said, "Let there be light." At this moment, a voice that sounded like the blessing of God resounded through the world. The Pope at the entrance of the Vatican's palace took a step forward. He held his staff and his body was bathed in endless holy light. The holy light swept out in all directions like a torrent of steel, pouring on the hundreds of knights who were kneeling on the ground like rain. Under the bathing of the holy light, the hundreds of knights immediately felt the pressure ease, and they finally regained their ability to move. Philip stepped back. The Pope was compassionate. He led the saints and walked out slowly. Eventually, he stopped when he was less than 300 meters away from Yi Chen. Respected Eastern powerhouse, I'll give you another chance to forgive yourself on behalf of God. The Pope's words were bewitching. As long as you kneel down and express your repentance to God and swear to become God's servant, we can spare you from death. Why are you talking so much? Let's fight. Before Yi Chen could speak, Zi Qingsong could not hold it in anymore. He stepped into the air and waved his long sleeve. He charged at the Pope directly. Protect the Pope and kill the heretics. At that moment the saints behind the Pope leaped up at the same time. The holy light on their bodies turned into white, raging holy flames that destroyed space. Kill. The 8 quasi-saints from China were unwilling to fall behind. They leaped out and started a shocking battle. Yi Chen did not move. Instead, he stood quietly in the air and looked at the Pope. The Pope was also looking at him from afar. Swoosh. In the end, the Pope could not help but take action. He took a step forward and waved the staff in his hand. He chanted, "God says, do not have mercy on the wicked." As his voice fell, the golden gem at the top of the staff trembled. Subsequently, it released tens of thousands of rays of holy light. It charged at Yi Chen like a bolt from the blue. Without a doubt, this was a saint artifact. Although it was not a saint artifact from the Holy Scriptures, it contained an extreme amount of saint energy. It was comparable to the spiritual treasures of the Eastern world. Swish, the white bolt of lightning that was as thick as a water bucket passed through the shackles of space and struck Yi Chen with terrifying radiant saint force. The white holy power was holy and solemn. This was the cultivation system of the people of the Church. It was different from the vital energy of the Eastern warriors. The vital energy of the Eastern warriors was self-cultivated. As for the holy power of the people of the Vatican, they had to be pious enough to God, pray day and night, and be sensitive to the value of the holy power in order to obtain God's blessing. Meanwhile, Yi Chen did not dodge the lightning attack. Instead, He extended his hand and performed a seal in the air. Buzz, as the air trembled slightly, 2 golden flames shot out of Yi Chen's eyes. The 2 golden flames were like 2 small suns. As soon as they appeared, they emitted countless dazzling golden rays that soared into the sky. Break! The golden flames transformed into an eastern fire dragon that charged at the incoming white lightning in an extremely domineering manner. Hong Long, at that moment, the air trembled deafeningly. The entire Vatican seemed to be trembling under such might, and many buildings were turned into dust on the spot. At the same time, the people who were fighting around them were stunned by this scene. They turned their heads to size it up. The sound of people sucking in cold breaths could be heard. The Pope was known as the most powerful person under the priests of the Vatican. Even in the entire Greece, he was the most powerful person. However, his attack was so easily neutralized by Mad Southern Yi? Did you learn this from God Capital? Yi Chen's expression remained unchanged under everyone's gaze. He lifted his head to look at the Pope in the distance, his eyes filled with disdain. "Humph." The Pope's expression finally turned grim. Then, he said coldly, "Congratulations, you've successfully angered me. Next, I'll let you know what God's wrath is." At the next moment, he raised his hands high and extended them into the air in an extremely strange posture. "Father, may I borrow your holy artifact?" Rumble, in the quiet void, a ray of holy light suddenly descended, as if a god had descended to the mortal world. It was a cross, a red cross that seemed to be soaked in blood. However, as it appeared, the world was filled with an incomparably holy, glorious, and solemn aura. At that moment, many of the Vatican's believers seemed to have seen a holy artifact. They were extremely excited. "Holy artifact, that's the holy artifact from the Bible, the true cross." "What? The true cross?" Hearing those words, the green ox that was protecting Meng Meng was also shocked, and it hurriedly reminded, "Great Lord, be careful. This thing is the thing that nailed Jesus to death. Anyone that is projected by it will turn into blood. It can't be underestimated." The true cross. It was one of the few holy artifacts in the Vatican. It was in existence on the same level as the Holy Grail. Legend had it that it possessed supreme holy power and could suppress all heretic. The Pope held the true cross in his hand and pressed towards Yi Chen like a true god walking in the mortal world. "God said that those who do evil must be eliminated. Bow down, heretic." At the next moment, the cross in his hand seemed to have communicated with heaven and earth, and endless light energy surged out. It was like the power of God, chanting endlessly, and it was incomparably majestic. Under the dazzling light, many of the Vatican's believers knelt on the ground, extremely pious. Meanwhile, the dazzling power of light was charging at Yi Chen as the Pope approached. At that moment, Yi Chen felt as if there were invisible shackles between heaven and earth that imprisoned his body in the air. Subsequently, a huge silver cross slowly appeared in front of him. It was about 30 meters tall. At the same time, an extremely powerful suction force came from it as if it wanted to suck Yi Chen over and judge him. "God's judgment, this is God's judgment. Ha ha ha, Mad Southern Yi has triggered God's judgment. He's dead for sure. This is the consequence of challenging my God's domain." At that moment, countless people laughed hysterically when they saw the shadow of the cross behind Yi Chen. The cross represented judgment and suppression in the West, because even Jesus was nailed to death by a cross in the past. Chapter 1041. You want to judge me? Feeling the suction force on the cross before him growing stronger, Yi Chen was not shocked. Instead, a mocking smirk appeared at the corner of his lips. "I have the heavenly Emperor Fate. Who can judge me? True self-avatar, Emperor's might." He faced the sky and let out a long roar. As his long hair fluttered in the wind, the roar of a dragon reverberated from within his body. The dragon's roar shook the 9 heavens. Subsequently, everyone saw a scene that they would never forget for the rest of their lives. A golden shadow walked out of Yi Chen's body slowly. It was an extremely dignified figure. Divine radiance surged, and the clouds covered the sky. No one could see his face clearly. However, with his appearance, it was as if a supreme existence had awakened from its slumber, emitting a terrifying pressure that was like an ocean. Almost at that instant, Mount Olympus, which was filled with endless bloody light, was torn apart by Ing. Ing tore the oracle Hermes to shreds. Just as he was about to charge in again, he suddenly raised his head and looked at the sky that supported the clouds. What a powerful emperor's might! Ying's eyes narrowed slightly as a dangerous glint flashed across his eyes. There's actually someone with such a powerful emperor's might in the human world. Master, that seems to be the direction of the Vatican. Qin Jian approached, his fangs ferocious. The Vatican? Ying's pupils constricted violently as he frowned slightly. Mad Southern Yi, I can't see through you anymore. Outside the Vatican Palace. Plop, plop, plop. As soon as the golden shadow appeared, everyone felt as if they had lost control of their bodies and fell to their knees. Everyone, including the Pope and Ziqingtsang, were no exception. Even their bodies and souls were trembling. Fear, trembling. It was as if the shadow was a god. What is that? At this moment, everyone was horrified. Soul? The soul of an Eastern powerhouse? If it's a soul, why is it so powerful? Even the Supreme Lord of the Vatican doesn't have such majesty. I feel like I'm facing a god at this moment. The most terrified person was the Pope. It was because he realized that as the shadow appeared, the true cross in his hand was actually trembling. Yes, trembling. It was as if he was facing a terrifying existence. Impossible, this is impossible. The Pope gripped the cross tightly and roared again and again. After all, the real cross in his hand was a holy object in the Bible. It represented the Almighty God. Even priests have something to fear? How was this possible? Yi Chen remained still as if he had been petrified. Only the golden shadow that walked out of his body, wrapped in a thick imperial aura, slowly walked towards the Pope. Chi, with every step he took, the real cross in the Pope's hand trembled more and more, and the shadow of the cross in the air seemed to be collapsing. No. The Pope broke out in a cold sweat and tried to hold the cross in his hand tightly so that he would not tremble. Gotcha! 2 crisp sounds rang out. Everyone realized that the cross in the Pope's hand had shattered, and the shadow of the cross in the air had also collapsed. This was a battle of emperor might. In Western mythology, Jesus was God, the master of the world, and the sacred weapon he passed down naturally had the power of an emperor. Therefore, Yi Chen summoned the emperor's might. But the result was obvious. Blech. Seeing that the sacred weapon was destroyed, the Pope spat blood out of his mouth. There was finally a hint of fear in his eyes when he looked at Yi Chen. Devil, you must be a devil that drifts away from the Almighty God. As soon as he said that, a bright light flashed in his hand. It was filled with resplendent holy light. He took a closer look. It was a silver spear. The spear of Longinus. At that moment, the green ox's expression changed abruptly, and it immediately roared, Master, this is the spear of Longinus, the holy spear that pierced through Jesus. As the spear had pierced through Jesus and absorbed his blood, it possessed supreme holy power and became a holy spear. Rumor had it that it could destroy all evil things in the world, and it was known as the Spear of Fate. Even the Western blood tribe's prince would turn into a pool of blood after being pierced by this spear. Die, heretic! The Pope's eyes were bloodshot as he held the spear. He charged at Yi Chen like a farmer fishing in the sea with a harpoon. As the heavenly emperor, I should suppress all enemies in the world. The golden shadow in the air seemed to be muttering to itself. Then, with a light wave, the word I condensed in his hand and imprinted in the air. Bang! The Pope instinctively stabbed with his spear. In the end, he was horrified to discover that as the huge word I suppressed him, cracks immediately appeared on the spear in his hand. At the next moment, another huge ancient word way appeared. Kacha, another crack appeared on the holy spear. Heavens! Emperor! Clang! Suppress! Rumble! When the word suppress fell, the Pope screamed and was sent flying. The holy spear in his hand had long been shattered by the ancient words. At that moment, the Pope was in an extremely miserable state. He forcefully controlled the holy spear to resist Yi Chen's emperor might, but he was also hit by the ancient words. Although the holy spear blocked part of it, his spine still broke and his organs ruptured. The heavens and the earth were dead silent. Defeated. The most powerful person in the Vatican had been defeated. The legend in their hearts had taken out holy artifacts one after another, but he was still no match for this Easterner. In an instant, the eyes of everyone in the Vatican were ashen, as if the world had collapsed. Devil, you're a devil! The Pope's body twitched and he bled non-stop. His eyes were filled with fear as he looked at Yi Chen. Even the Almighty could not deal with this Easterner. What was he if not a devil? Devil! Yi Chen could not help but grin when he heard that. He said coldly, "If I'm a devil, what can the devil do to me? If I'm a Buddha, there will be no devils in this world." After saying that, he walked toward the Pope step by step. His cold voice sounded, "Do you have any other tricks?" The Pope's expression changed slightly. He forcefully took a deep breath and suddenly turned around to kneel solemnly at the palace behind him. Everyone saw that. Everyone was shocked to their core. As the supreme Pope who controlled the Vatican, he had always looked down on the world like a god. However, he was kneeling at that moment. Even Yi Chen was stunned. "Great Master, kill him, quickly kill him!" The green ox's extremely sharp voice was heard. "He's going to summon the angel in heaven. Quick, kill him now!" Before he could finish, he heard the Pope's extremely sincere voice. "My most respected angel of power, Lord Puente Balites, your most devout servant requests for you to descend and help me judge the heretics." Boom! As soon as he said that, a crack appeared in the sky above the Vatican that was originally extremely quiet. From afar, it looked like the bloody mouth of a giant beast. In the deepest part of the crack, holy light surged, accompanied by the chanting of the gods. It was like a paradise for the gods. P.S. Chapter 3 has been updated for today. Thank you for your support. Chapter 1042. In the sky above the Vatican. The ancient Pope knelt on the ground respectfully as he chanted, causing a phenomenon in the air. Under everyone's gaze, boundless white light suddenly floated out of the huge hole that had opened up in the sky above the Vatican. Soon after, a huge void door slowly appeared from the crack. The door was 300 meters tall, and holy light surged all over it. It emitted an ancient, desolate, and holy aura. Almost as soon as it appeared, it caused a huge phenomenon. Even the whole of Europe saw it. "Look, a door has appeared in the sky. Oh my God, what is that? The door to heaven, that's the door to heaven." At that moment, the entire Europe was alarmed by this phenomenon, and then it caused a huge uproar. Kingdom of Heaven, the legendary Kingdom of Heaven. There really is a heaven in this world. The eyes of the people outside the palace were filled with disbelief as they knelt on the ground. Heaven could also be called heaven. It was the hometown of God, a paradise that everyone hoped to go to after death. Therefore, how could they not be excited? Even Xi Qingtsang and the other Chinese martial artists were shocked. They were all shocked by the gate that appeared in the air. Rumble, the door gradually opened. Immediately, a vast and mighty pressure slowly spread out from the crack of the door, followed by a white, incomparably pure staircase that extended from the void to the ground. Endless hymns and chants sounded in the world. They were like hymns and arias, all of them bewitching people's hearts. In the blink of an eye, a tall figure slowly walked out of the door, stepping on the white stone steps and walking towards the human world. Take a closer look. It was an extremely tall man. The man was naked, and his entire body was wrapped in countless white holy light. He had the most perfect face and appearance in the world. His facial features seemed to be the most beautiful masterpiece of the heavens. His long golden hair fluttered gently like a waterfall, emitting waves of holy light from time to time. The most eye-catching thing was that he had 4 huge pure white wings on his back. Each of his wings seemed to be made of the most perfect goose down in the world. They were extremely holy and perfect. Yi Chen squinted slightly. A 4-winged angel? As expected of the Western birdman. In the distance, the green ox carried the little baby on its back. A pair of eyes that were the size of copper bells wandered back and forth on the 4-winged angel. There's no magistrate, and it's neither male nor female. Only the so-called God of the West could create such a thing. The green ox muttered to himself, but his expression was rather grim because the 4-winged angel in front of him made him feel danger. Dong dong dong. At that moment, everyone from the Vatican, including the Pope, kowtowed heavily towards the angel that was slowly walking over. O merciful messenger of God, you have indeed followed the Lord's promise. You have not abandoned your people, you have not abandoned this world. Supreme Holy Angel, I am your most loyal servant. Please take me to the beautiful heavens. All the members of the Vatican prostrated themselves on the ground and worshipped, their faces filled with fanaticism and admiration. This was their faith. The so-called angels represented holiness, goodness, and integrity. They were the bearers of God's will, and spirits who served God. Their duty was to be the watchdog of human guidance, and they would carry out God's justice. In the Bible, there were 3 types of angels: inferior angels, intermediate angels, and superior angels. Angels also had 3 titles: Holy Spirit, Son of God, and Holy. At that moment, the one who walked out of the heavens was the inferior angel of power, Balites, an angel with the title of Holy Spirit. Even though he was a low-rank angel, he was not someone that mortals could compare to. Even the Supreme Pope of the Vatican had to worship him. Almighty Holy Spirit, the Vatican is facing a great calamity, and the culprit is this Easterner before you. As the angel of power walked over slowly, the Pope prostrated himself respectfully and buried his head very low as he spoke carefully. He ignored the fact that the people of the Vatican are God's servants, and he even ignored the Vatican as a God's territory. Please punish him. You've let down God's expectations. The dignified and cold words slowly came out of the angel's mouth, causing the Pope's heart to turn cold. The Pope's body trembled violently, and he said with a face full of shame, I am useless. I've let down God's expectations. The angel of power was expressionless. He looked around and his gaze landed on Yi Chen. A few seconds later, a disdainful and condescending voice came from his mouth. Lowly creature, you've blasphemed God's glory, ignored God's territory, and killed God's people. You've committed a heinous crime, and you should be judged. Yi Chen laughed out loud as if he was disdainful. Not only am I going to kill people today, but I'm also going to kill you, you be ****. As soon as these words were spoken, it was no different from dropping a nuclear bomb on the originally calm surface of the sea, completely shocking everyone. The Pope and the rest were in disbelief. Never had they thought that Yi Chen would dare to boast so shamelessly in the face of the Supreme Angel. He was too arrogant, as expected of a filthy lowly creature. The angel of power shook his head slightly as if he was neither happy nor sad. I'm here, yet you still dare to be so disrespectful. You deserve to die. If you want to fight, then fight. Why are you being so long-winded? Yi Chen's eyes turned cold as he attacked. He took a step forward, and his figure was unparalleled. He turned into a golden afterimage and charged at the angel of power. Today, not only will I kill you, but I'll also kill my way into your kingdom and destroy all the gods. Rumble, the golden fist force traversed the sky, causing the void to collapse and emitting a violent tremor. It was as if the sky was about to collapse. Lowly creature, congratulations on successfully angering me. I'll make you regret being born into this world. The angel of power chanted, as if he was pronouncing a sentence. His voice was merciless, solemn, and solemn. Boom! At the next moment, the holy light on his body suddenly soared. The white light was like an ocean that was about to materialize, completely enveloping the entire Vatican. He suddenly made a grabbing motion in the air, and then boundless holy light condensed into a golden scepter in his hand. It was dazzling and dazzling. Heavenly punishment judgment. As he waved the scepter in his hand, white lightning appeared in the air. The lightning that was as thick as a bucket struck Yi Chen at an extremely fast speed. As soon as the white lightning appeared, heaven and earth were filled with a terrifying pressure. Even a saint like Zi Qingsong felt a chill run down his spine. The pontiff stared intently at this scene, his aged face filled with reverence. Under the heavenly punishment judgment, any heretic will be destroyed. There are no exceptions. End of this chapter. Chapter 1043. That's right, that Easterner will definitely die. The Supreme Lord Holy Spirit has used the heavenly punishment judgment. It's destined to destroy everything. No one can survive. This is the consequence of blaspheming a god. It was not just the Pope. Even the other members of the Vatican had cold smiles and gloating expressions on their faces. It was as if they could see the scene of Yi Chen being blasted into pieces by the heavenly punishment judgment. Fellow Yi Zi Qingsong's expression was extremely grim. Right at this moment, someone exclaimed, "Look, what's he doing?" Not only did Yi Chen not dodge the bolt of white lightning, but he also sped up and attacked Angel Quan. My God! He's not dodging. Everyone present was stunned when they saw this, especially the people from the Vatican. They could not believe their eyes. That was the heavenly punishment summoned by the angel. It was different from ordinary lightning. It was lightning enhanced by holy power, and its power was far greater than ordinary lightning. However, the scene that occurred in the next moment caused all of them to be dumbstruck, and they felt their hearts and minds tremble without end. After the white lightning struck Yi Chen's body, it only stopped him for a moment. After that, there was no more damage. How is this possible? The heavenly punishment judgment is useless against him? God, isn't this Eastern heretic's body too terrifying? Could he be the incarnation of Satan? The entire world was in an uproar. The scene before them was simply too shocking. They were not the only ones. Even the expression of a supreme being like the Angel of Quan finally changed slightly. However, before he could think too much about it, Yi Chen had already turned into a golden torrent and charged over. Boom! His eyes were blazing golden as he charged forward. His speed had already exceeded 10 times the speed of sound, and his golden fist was like a ball of divine fire burning. The dazzling light of the divine fire made one's eyes sting, and they did not dare to look at it directly. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the power of this punch was. Light of judgment. Angel Quan's expression was gloomy. He slammed the scepter in his hand, and a ray of white light appeared on the scepter. As soon as the white light appeared, it was like a rising sun, emitting a dazzling holy light that swept through heaven and earth. Ah! Many of the foreign races who were watching the battle from thousands of feet away were struck by the white light, and their bodies began to emit smoke. When the smoke dissipated, pools of blood could be seen on the ground. However, this was only the remnant power of the light of judgment, because most of its power was targeted at Yi Chen. From Angel Quan's point of view, even if his attack could not hurt Yi Chen, it could at least make him retreat. However, the next moment, suddenly, a figure pierced through the blinding white light and charged over with killing intent. Not good! Angel Quan's eyelids twitched. Without any hesitation, he moved his body to the back. Your reaction isn't bad, but it's too late. As Yi Chen's cold voice was heard, Yi Chen's solid punch landed on the man's body. Boom! Everyone watched as the space where Angel Quan was shattered into dust by this punch. All that was left was a whistling void storm. In the next moment, a tall figure appeared in the distance. However, the figure staggered and almost fell from the sky. Most importantly, there was a visible wound on the former's chest, but no blood flowed out. Who else could it be but Angel Quan? Upon seeing this, the crowd below fell silent. The Pope and the rest widened their eyes, unable to believe what they were seeing. The Supreme Lord Angel in their hearts had his chest pierced by Yi Chen's punch? B****. At that moment, Angel Quan's hair was disheveled. He was no longer as holy as before, and his face was slightly ferocious. Lowly creature, how dare you hurt me? Boom, Yi Chen said nothing. He took a step forward and waved his fist. They were like two huge golden hammers that smashed at him again. Angel Quan's expression changed drastically. He wanted to dodge, but Yi Chen was faster than him. Bang! This time, the former was sent flying. He had no choice but to flap the wings behind him in an attempt to slow down the force. At that moment, Yi Chen attacked again. He did not give him a chance at all. He was extremely violent, like a demon that had descended to the world. Freak, he's a freak. The green ox was dumbfounded as he watched this scene. He clicked his tongue in wonder and said, I didn't expect such a freak to be born in the end of days before the spiritual energy recovery. If this child was born during the great calamity of the world, our human race and Earth wouldn't have such a tragic past. His pair of ox eyes were no longer as flattering as before. Instead, they were filled with extraordinary splendor. After the heavenly Tao died, this child was born. This means that he has great luck. He might be able to survive the new calamity of the world. Now that I think about it, it's a wise choice for me to follow him. At this point, he took out a cigarette and spat out a flame from his nose. After lighting the cigarette, he took a deep puff and roared, Master, do your best. Nyo loves you. Compared to his pride, everyone in the Vatican, including the Pope, had gloomy expressions. The Supreme Lord Angel Quan was actually suppressed by this Eastern heretic the entire time. Boom, right at this moment, a giant golden palm soared into the sky and sent Angel Quan flying. Many people were killed on the spot after being affected. Only the Pope and the rest hurriedly dodged. When they saw the person on the ground clearly, they felt as if they had been struck by lightning. They did not move at all. The Supreme Lord Holy Spirit in their hearts was in an extremely sorry state at this moment. Not only were both his arms broken, even the 4 wings on his back were gone. It was as if someone had forcefully pulled them off. Countless feathers danced in the air. An incomparably shocking thought flashed through the minds of the Pope and the rest. He plucked out the Lord Holy Spirit's wings. Subsequently, under their incredulous gazes, they saw Angel Quan stand up from the ground and turn around to rush toward the gate in the sky. Lowly creature, I, Balites, will remember you. One day I'll kill all of you Easterners. An exasperated and extremely resentful voice entered everyone's ears. Lord Holy Spirit is escaping. All the people from the Vatican were shocked and even in despair. Some even almost fainted. The scene in front of them had ruthlessly shattered the faith in their hearts. Was Yi Chen, the Eastern heretic, so powerful that even the Lord Holy Spirit was no match for him? Master, that bastard is running away. The green ox, who was smoking, coughed. The 10 cigarettes in his mouth were instantly reduced to ashes. You want to escape to heaven? Yi Chen glanced at Angel Quan, who was less than 30 meters away from the gate. Killing intent surged. Then, I'll kill my way into your heaven and bury all of you gods. P.S. Chapter 2, that's it. End of this chapter. Chapter 1044. Facing Angel Quan's escape, Yi Chen did not stop him. He watched as Angel Quan was getting closer and closer to the door to heaven. He placed his hands behind his back and said without turning his head, Old ox fellow Z, I'll be back soon. This so-called kingdom of heaven must be destroyed. As soon as he finished speaking, his body turned into purple lightning and instantly chased after Angel Quan, who was less than 3 meters away from the gate to heaven. Rumble, as his figure moved, countless bolts of lightning appeared in the air, followed by a loud rumbling roar. It was as if the sky was about to collapse. Extreme shock flashed through Angel Quan's eyes. He activated the holy light repeatedly, and with a furious roar, he suddenly stepped into the gate to heaven. Boom! As the air trembled, the gate to heaven quickly closed, as if it was going to be completely isolated from the world. However, just as there was only a weak opening left on the gate, a huge golden hand reached in accurately from the outside. Open! Yi Chen let out a long roar. His voice was filled with supreme dignity, as if his words were the rules of heaven and earth. His entire body surged with divine radiance, and all the power of his physical body erupted. His right hand that was stuck in the gate to heaven was covered in golden light. Rumble, then, under the gazes of Angel Quan and everyone below, the gate to heaven that was about to close was forcefully opened by him. The gate to heaven, he forcefully opened the gate to heaven. This is too terrifying. How much strength does he need to do that? Unbelievable, simply unbelievable. Including the Pope, everyone from the Vatican had unconcealable shock on their faces. One had to know that the gate to heaven was the barrier between gods and humans. Since the establishment of the Vatican, no one had ever been able to do this. Who exactly is this person? Angel Quan was truly terrified. He could no longer care about anything else as he dashed into the heavenly kingdom. Yi Chen stood proudly in front of the gate to heaven. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were clear. At the next moment, he took a step forward. At that moment, Angel Quan, who was charging at the front, felt a bone-chilling, killing intent coming from his back. Without saying a word, he waved the scepter in his hand and smashed it behind him. However, at that moment, a sword gleam that looked like purple lightning slashed through the sky. Bang! The purple sword light directly pierced through his back. Angel Quan's body stiffened and his eyes glazed over. After that, his body exploded, transforming into countless specks of holy white light that rained down on the world. The supreme four-winged angel in the hearts of billions of Vatican believers was killed by Yi Chen with a single swing of his sword. At this moment, the ground suddenly fell into a dead silence. Everyone's gazes became dull and their faces froze. Shocking, absolutely shocking. Fear, intense fear. Slaying Angel. This scene was simply too shocking. If it was before, no one would have thought of it, much less dared to think about it. The next step is to fight the heavenly state. Yi Chen's eyes gleamed coldly. Since I said that I'll make the Western sect devoid of gods, I'll definitely do it. Thereafter, he took a step forth and flew into the gates of the heavenly kingdom. Along with his step, the entire heavenly kingdom violently trembled. Seeing Yi Chen disappear into the air, the people on the ground finally reacted after a short silence. Your Holiness, what should we do now? A saint from the Vatican stammered. The Pope's face was as pale as a sheet, and he almost lost his balance. He took a deep breath in and said, "Let's go in and take a look." With that, he took the lead and dashed towards the gates of the heavenly state. He knew very well that the heavenly state was the most powerful existence above the Vatican. The gods in the hearts of the Vatican lived there. Meanwhile, Yi Chen would definitely cause a huge commotion if he charged in now. It would be fine if he lost, but if he won after him, the saints of the Vatican stepped into the gates of the heavenly state one after another. Among the remaining Chinese powerhouses, a demon king frowned and said, "Senior Z, should we follow him in?" "Of course." Zi Qingtsong said without hesitation, "Fellow Yi has charged into the heavenly state alone. It's hard to predict whether he'll be lucky or not. Naturally, we have to follow and help him." As his voice fell, all the Chinese powerhouses, including the Green Ox, walked into the gates of the heavenly state together. The interior of the heavenly state was incomparably huge. It was like an independent small world with no end in sight. Compared to the Kunlun ruins, this so-called heavenly state was filled with floating stone pillars that supported the sky, and there were illusory souls tied to the stone pillars. These souls were all bound by the white chains. Their faces were filled with pain and resentment, as if they were struggling and suffering. If one took a closer look, they would realize that the white chains were absorbing the power of the souls endlessly. At the end of these chains was a huge palace in the sky. The palace was like a cauldron, absorbing all the power of the souls on the chains. The other end of the cauldron emitted endless white energy. It was the holy light that the Vatican cultivated. When the Pope stepped into this place with the saints of the Vatican, he was stunned. He felt that the difference between the heavenly state in his imagination and the one before him was too great. In their opinion, the heavenly state was the best place for people to return to after death. It was definitely better than the human world. However, the heavenly state before them was filled with bound souls. They roared in pain, howled, and cried for help. It was not an exaggeration to describe it as purgatory on earth. Your Holiness, isn't this the former green-robed Bishop of the Vatican, Cecil? When a saint of the Vatican passed by a stone pillar, he suddenly pointed at the soul on it and cried out in alarm. The Pope looked in the direction of his finger and saw a soul struggling with all its might. It even reached out to them in an attempt to ask for help. Legend has it that His Excellency Cecil sacrificed his entire life for God. After his death, God took him into the heavenly state. The leader of the Vatican's Holy Knights, Philip, could not accept it. I didn't expect him to be so miserable. Look, is he the holy leader Nelson of our church from 500 years ago? That's Saint Leslie, and the third Pope, Lord Smith. As the souls were recognized one by one, the expressions of the powerhouses of the Vatican turned pale. It could even be said to be fear and anger. Those who were tied to the stone pillars were all former saints of the Vatican. They had sacrificed everything for the Vatican and God. Before this, everyone knew that they had entered the legendary heavenly state, but could it be that they had encountered such an encounter? This is the heavenly state? A saint of the Vatican said with a trembling voice. This is the heavenly state that has been revered by the Vatican for all eternity? Impossible, this is impossible. Why is it like this? In an instant, countless people roared in anger. God lied to us. The Pope was also trembling. Almighty Lord, what have we done wrong? Why did you lie to us like this? End of this chapter. Chapter 1045. At that moment, a furious voice resounded throughout the entire kingdom of heaven. Open your eyes and take a good look. This is the kingdom of heaven that you've been dreaming of. This is the God that you've been worshipping forever. Yi Chen's figure slowly appeared above everyone's heads. Every step he took would cause lightning to surge in the air. Tens of thousands of lightning bolts condensed behind him, forming an extremely shocking scene. The God that you worship is just enslaving you. The kingdom of heaven that you've been dreaming of is just a scam. A scam that they'll use as a meal ticket after you die. They'll squeeze every drop of blood and strength from you. Yi Chen's voice was cold. He mercilessly unveiled the only fantasy in everyone's hearts. To put it bluntly, this kingdom of heaven was a cage. It tricked the people from the Vatican who cultivated holy light so that their souls would ascend here after they died. Then, they would be imprisoned on the stone pillars by iron chains. Then, they would be used as petri dishes to create holy light for the kingdom of heaven to maintain these angels and the divine power of these gods. With that, he took a step forward and swept his cold gaze across the entire kingdom of heaven. The two golden flames in his eyes flickered violently. Do you want me to invite you out? As soon as he said that, the tens of thousands of lightning bolts behind him rumbled endlessly, as if the entire kingdom of heaven was in an endless sea of lightning. The kingdom of heaven is a holy land of God. Anyone who enters will be abandoned by God and sent to hell. At that moment, an extremely dignified voice came from the palace in the void. Holy Land? Then I'll destroy your holy land today. Yi Chen scoffed coldly and ignored the voice. Subsequently, he waved his sleeve and countless lightning bolts spread out. Rumble, the stone pillars that stood on the ground fell to the ground and broke. The souls that were bound to them were freed one after another. How dare you! The moment the furious roar rang out, a figure shot out from the palace. The other party was an angel with 6 wings. Holy light surged all over his body, and he was twice as large as the previous angel. At that moment, the Pope blurted out subconsciously, "Strength Angel, it's the Holy Son, Strength Angel Pavis, who's an intermediate angel." After that, several angels leaped out. 2 of them were 4-winged angels, while the other 2 were 6-winged angels. It's Angel Angel, Archangel Angel, Angel of Might, and Dominion Angel Timinius. Many people from the Vatican were shocked. Clearly, they did not expect a total of 5 angels to come in such a short period of time. Among them, there were even 2 mid-level angels. Lord Saint. The Supreme Pontiff knelt down on one knee and folded his hands in front of his chest as he spoke to Angel Lee respectfully. "May I ask why the souls of the Church who went to the heavenly kingdom were treated like this? Is it really as this Easterner said, that you are just enslaving and deceiving us?" "Not bad." Another saint from the Vatican knelt down and questioned, "Everyone says that the kingdom of heaven is incomparably beautiful, but the kingdom of heaven we see shatters our fantasies." "Stupid lowly creature," the angel said disdainfully, "you are just our dogs in the human world. Since you are dogs, you should know that you are dogs." The Pope and the rest could not believe their ears when they heard that. They thought they had heard wrongly. Was this the God in their hearts? Human. The angel seemed to have crossed space and arrived. He looked down at Yi Chen. "You killed the angel of heavenly kingdom and trespassed into the holy land of heavenly kingdom. Aren't you afraid of angering the gods?" Meanwhile, the 4 angels behind him looked at Yi Chen with killing intent on their faces. Their eyes were as cold as knives. "So what if I'm angered?" Yi Chen glanced at them and scoffed, "I don't care how you enslave the Westerners, but since you dare to interfere with my business, today's outcome is destined." "How dare you?" As soon as he said that, the 4-winged angel who was as beautiful as a goddess behind the angel took a step forward. Then, she drew out chains that were as dense as a prison. "Angel bind." The 4-winged angel's voice was emotionless as she chanted. A terrifying aura instantly spread out from the chains. A chilly wind howled and surged into the sky. Rumble. The cold chains let out a loud howl and pressed down on Yi Chen's head. It was like the hand of the Grim Reaper that wanted to take Yi Chen's life. However, Yi Chen did not move when he saw that. He allowed the huge chain to wrap around him. "Fellow Yi!" Ziqing Song and the rest exclaimed subconsciously. The Pope and the rest had complicated expressions on their faces. Naturally, they were filled with hatred for Yi Chen. After all, he had killed many people from the Vatican. However, if it were not for Yi Chen, how would they have known about the so-called scam of heavenly kingdom? How would they have known that the God in their hearts only treated them like livestock? Just when the chain was about to pierce through Yi Chen's heart, Yi Chen moved. All of a sudden, he stretched out his powerful palm and grabbed the thick chain. Gotcha! He pulled hard, and the iron chain instantly shattered. Even though it had shattered, these iron pieces still maintained their upright state, just like a long spear. Die! Yi Chen grabbed the taut metal piece and stabbed it forward. He stabbed it directly into the 4-winged angel's head. Boom! The 4-winged angel's body exploded. Just like the Quan angel earlier, it turned into countless rays of white light. The series of events happened so quickly that no one could react. When they saw the scene clearly, the world fell into dead silence. He killed a 4-winged angel with a raise of his hand? The Pope and the rest's faces twitched. A hint of shock flashed through the strength angel's eyes. He could not believe what he had just seen. "Human, who exactly are you?" "Of course, I'm the one who killed all of you." Yi Chen moved, and golden blood energy bloomed from his body. He stretched out his golden hand and grabbed at the strength angel directly. Everyone was so shocked that they almost screamed when they saw that. Was Yi Chen going to fight 4 angels at the same time? One had to know that there were 2 6-winged angels among them. Their strength was not something the Quan angel and angel could compare to. How dare you? The strength angel laughed out of extreme anger. Human, I admit that you're very powerful, but you're making a huge mistake if you think you can fight against Heavenly Kingdom by yourself. In the next moment, a holy light flashed between his brows and a long sword flew out. It was a golden longsword that looked like a cross, and its entire body was surging with holy light. Holy cross sword, judgment. The strength angel roared, and the cross sword in his hand expanded several times. It was like a huge cross that was about 30 meters tall, suppressing the void. Under this cross blade, everyone, including the Pope, felt an irresistible pressure pressing down on them. End of this chapter. Chapter 1046. Plop, plop, plop. At that moment, everyone could not control their bodies. They prostrated themselves on the ground, their faces filled with fear. Holy Cross? When the green ox in the distance saw this scene with adorable little darling on its back, a hint of solemnity appeared on its cynical face. Although he had lived for countless years, he had been sleeping most of the time. That was why he had escaped the calamity. Even so, many fragmented memories flashed through the depths of his memory. He vaguely remembered that this cross sword had surpassed a spirit treasure. During the last great battle between the East and the West, it had killed many Chinese saints. Buzz, under everyone's gaze, a dazzling white light suddenly bloomed on the huge Holy Cross sword. The gigantic Holy Cross sword suddenly emitted a dazzling white light. Subsequently, it flew out of the strength angel's hand and slashed at Yi Chen with a destructive force. At the same time, as Yi Chen moved, he clenched his right fist and threw a punch. Thunder rumbled, and the force of his punch skyrocketed. It seemed to carry the might of heaven and earth as it surged. In an instant, the attacks of the two collided. Boom, boom, boom. An earth-shattering sound reverberated. There was even a shock wave that tore through the air and swept in all directions. Even so, the huge Holy Cross sword was not destroyed by Yi Chen's punch. Instead, it entangled Yi Chen as if it had a life of its own. Break it! Yi Chen threw a punch quickly. Each punch would force the Holy Cross sword back by 3 meters. The gigantic lightning fist made the Holy Cross swords glow dim. His physical body is too powerful. After everyone saw that, they looked at Yi Chen in shock again. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed that he could resist the 6-winged angel's Holy Cross sword with his physical strength. Boom! A crisp crack was heard when Yi Chen's last punch landed. A crack had appeared on the Holy Cross sword. As soon as the crack appeared, it rapidly expanded, like a spider web that was spreading out. Crack, crack, crack in the blink of an eye, the strength angel watched in disbelief as the Holy Cross sword shattered into countless pieces. Boom! The strength angel screamed in agony as his body was sent flying. The mark between his eyebrows exploded. Yi Chen was extremely domineering. He was so mad that he did not give him a chance at all. With a flash, he took the opportunity to attack. Not good! When the holy angel saw this, he immediately shouted, "This person is too strong. We must use the light of annihilation to destroy him." As his voice fell, a crystal scroll shot out from his body. Boom, boom, boom! Immediately afterward, a vertical eye split open on the forehead of the strength angel, holy angel, archangel, and ability angel. As the vertical eye opened, 4 beams of white light shot toward the huge painting in the sky. Buzz! As soon as the crystal scroll rose into the air, it quickly unfurled and transformed into an incomparably huge painting. It was brilliant and filled with killing intent, completely enveloping the entire ground. The rays of light made everyone on the ground tremble from the depths of their souls. It was as if just one of them was enough to make them unable to reincarnate and their souls dissipate. The next moment, thousands of rays of light converged and descended at the same time. It was as if a sea of lightning had descended, wanting to destroy everything. Under such earth-shattering might, everyone, including the Pope and Zi Qingtsong, almost fell into despair. Holy sh*t, it's that thing. When the green ox in the distance saw this, it spread its hooves without saying a word and ran quickly with Meng Meng on its back. Crazy, these birdmen are really crazy. They actually condensed this thing. Are they trying to destroy the world? Master, we'll meet again in the next life. It's not that Nyo isn't loyal, but this thing has appeared once before. It was he who changed the situation of the last great battle between the East and the West. The green ox cried out as it ran. The rest also fled into the distance frantically, afraid that they would die in this terrifying white light. However, Yi Chen's expression was calm under such terrifying pressure. He looked up at the sky and took a deep breath in. Subsequently, he opened a golden palm and pressed it slowly and forcefully into the sky as if he wanted to pluck the stars and moon. Boom! The terrifying light of annihilation landed on his body and destroyed his body crazily, as if it wanted to destroy him mercilessly. What *T light of annihilation? Hold on. The night demon armor revealed its perfect form and protected Yi Chen's body tightly as it roared. Yi Chen did not move at all. Emperor Brush appeared in his hand. As he waved it with the tip of his nose, a huge seal word appeared in the air. In an instant, the world returned to silence, as if everything had been frozen. The light of annihilation that was wrapped around him did not move at all. Even the huge painting in the sky stopped. What is this? The few angels could not believe their eyes. You dare to call it the light of annihilation with this? Yi Chen's mumbling voice sounded, causing the people who had fled far away to be dumbfounded. Devour! Yi Chen held the emperor brush and wrote a golden word on his left palm. Then, his palm faced up. In that instant, all the white light gathered in his palm, like rivers flowing into the sea. Everyone's faces were blank and they were petrified. Angel Li and the rest had terrible expressions on their faces. They could not accept this. They looked at each other and saw fear in each other's eyes. You guys have already judged me. Now, it's my turn to judge you guys. Yi Chen turned around slowly and smiled lightly at the four angels. There was a dangerous aura in his smile. Oh no! Angel Li's heart skipped a beat. He had a bad feeling about this, and he wanted to escape without saying anything. Boom! Yi Chen attacked all of a sudden. He stretched his palm out and aimed it at them. The tens of thousands of rays of white light poured out like an ocean. No. The four angels' eyes were filled with fear. They roared in unison and channeled the holy light in an attempt to dodge. They knew very well how terrifying the light of annihilation was. If they were hit, they would definitely die without a complete corpse. However, under Yi Chen's divine consciousness that was comparable to a god transformation stage cultivator, how much could they do? Boom, 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 boom. The tens of thousands of rays of white light turned into four torrents. They chased after one person each and swept past their waists. Among the four angels, the Archangel and the Holy Angel were the first to turn into white light and disappear. They did not even have the time to scream. You'll regret this. Only the Angel of Strength and the Angel of Energy were resentful. When my master returns to this realm, he'll definitely make you beg for death. Chapter 1047. When my lord returns, the Crusaders will arrive. They'll definitely destroy everything and suppress the world. The Strength Angel and the Might Angel cursed. Your lord? Yi Chen could not help but squint. God Jehovah? Why, isn't he in this world now? If not for these two reminders, he would have forgotten that there was a creator in Western mythology, God Jehovah. After all, even angels and the legendary kingdom of heaven existed. Therefore, it was not that shocking to have a god. Don't try to trick us. The strength angel thought Yi Chen was afraid, so he said with a smirk, Easterner, we have to admit that you're very powerful. However, you're not a god after all. You can't imagine how powerful our Godfather is. That's right. The Might Angel also smirked hideously. Godfather created everything. He's the god of this world. If you dare to kill us, it's equivalent to becoming an enemy of Godfather. Boom! Before he could finish speaking, Yi Chen stabbed him to death with a golden finger. He turned into light balls that scattered everywhere. Shut up! Yi Chen smirked in disdain. Subsequently, he extended his arm and grabbed the strength angel. He performed the soul-searching tactic to read his memory crazily. However, he soon realized that the strength angel's consciousness had no memory at all. There was only a series of strange codes, as if they had turned into code. Yi Chen frowned slightly and then relaxed slowly. After all, angels were not humans. They were energy bodies created by God. They had no gender. They could not even be considered as living beings. Naturally, they did not have memories or emotions. Just when Yi Chen was going to memorize all the data, the strength angel in his hand suddenly exploded. Self-destruction. Yi Chen waved his hand to dissolve the power of the explosion. He shook his head lightly. It doesn't look like self-destruction. It seems like my divine consciousness has activated the self-destruction program in his body. There's a self-destruction program in advance. A gleam flashed through his eyes. Interesting. I'm getting more and more interested in this God Jehovah. It's a pity that I can't get any useful information from his mind. Otherwise, I might be able to find out where this so-called God is now. Yi Chen secretly calculated as he thought to this point, however. He's still not responding even after I've caused such a commotion. He's either in a deep sleep or he's really not on Earth. God Jehovah was known as the supreme ruler of this world in the West. It was rumored that he created the universe. Therefore, in the eyes of all believers, God is omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Naturally, Yi Chen scoffed at the rumor. After all, China had the longest history in terms of culture. The ancestors of China had already begun to revere nature, fantasizing that when Pangu created the world, Nuwa created mankind, and even the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors ruled the world, the Westerners were still climbing trees naked. Therefore, God Jehovah does exist, but far from the legend of omnipotence. On the ground, there was a dead silence. Everyone seemed to have heard the truth as they stared blankly at the figure in the sky. Especially the people from the Vatican, including the Pope. They looked at Yi Chen as if they were looking at a real heavenly god. Killing the angel of power with a wave of his hand. He had killed his way into the legendary Holy Land of the Holy Kingdom of Heaven. With his own strength, he forcibly resisted the joint attack of the 5 great angels, and in the end, he brutally killed all 5 great angels. All of these accomplishments had greatly shaken their hearts, and it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they were horrified. The Pope's lips trembled. At that moment, he did not know how to describe his feelings. Heaven had been destroyed, but he did not feel much sorrow. This was because as the scam of heaven was exposed, he truly realized that the God that he and the others revered was just enslaving and deceiving them. At that moment, he was more confused and afraid. He was confused about the value of the Vatican's existence after this. He was afraid of how Yi Chen would deal with the Vatican. How would he deal with them? Tap, tap, tap. At this moment, a series of heavy footsteps rang out, jolting the former back to his senses. The Pope could not help but look up. He saw Yi Chen walking toward them step by step with his hands behind his back. Although he wasn't walking very fast, in this silent world, every step he took felt like he was stepping on the hearts of everyone present. When Yi Chen stopped and looked at the former calmly, the former's heart trembled. He immediately knelt down and said with a trembling voice, Sinner Diamartin 3 greets, Heavenly God Yi. Plop, plop, plop. As he knelt, all the other saints of the church knelt down as well. We sinners greet heavenly God ye. Everyone's voices were trembling, and their bodies were trembling. They were filled with despair for their future. No one dared to resist or escape. That was because even powerful existences like the strength angel could not escape from Yi Chen, let alone them. Yi Chen looked at them expressionlessly. The killing intent in his eyes gradually disappeared as he said in a deep voice, "Are you willing to submit?" The moment that was said, the Pope was stunned at first, then a look of ecstasy flashed across his face. "Yes, we're willing. We're willing." In the blink of an eye, a series of extremely excited voices rang out, almost covering the entire world. "Fellow Yi." Zi Qingsang's expression changed slightly, and he hesitated to speak. "I know what I'm doing." Yi Chen interrupted him and looked at the Pope and the rest again. "Since you're willing to submit to me, hand over your soul blood." The Pope and the rest did not dare hesitate and handed over all their soul blood. Even though they knew that their lives were in Yi Chen's hands from now on, at least it was better than being executed. From today onwards, the Vatican belongs to China. The Vatican must send people to pay tribute to China every year. Yi Chen looked around and his cold voice was heard. Everyone heard it without missing a word. "We obey Heavenly God Ye's decree." The Pope and the rest agreed in unison. Their thunderous voices spread out from the Vatican to the surroundings. In the end, they even shook the entire Vatican. Zi Qingsang and the other Chinese powerhouses watched this scene silently from afar. Their gazes were incomparably complicated. Some were respectful, and some were excited. A few seconds later, an inaudible voice spread out from the crowd. "From today onwards, Mad Southern Yi will reign supreme on Earth. He will be the true #1 on Earth. That's right. He defeated the Western Alliance army and led us into the West. He suppressed the Vatican alone and killed 6 angels." Another person took a deep breath in and said excitedly, "I believe that when the news gets out, the entire world will be shocked. China will be ranked as the leader of the 100 countries." The rest nodded one after another. Their eyes were filled with excitement, hot blood, and even more respect. It was because the thin figure in the distance had completed something that no one could do. It could be said to be unprecedented and peerless. End of this chapter. Chapter 1048. At the same time, they were also on Mount Olympus in Greece. At that moment, the flames of war were raging. Blood flowed everywhere, and the void trembled. The fire almost engulfed the entire Mount Olympus. Ing coughed slightly and looked down at the black spear that had pierced his body under his abdomen. In front of him, a god's body was almost shattered. He was lying on the ground and looking at him with his last breath. An extremely weak murmured, "Cough, cough, I didn't expect the god-killing spear left behind by the god-king to be unable to kill you." As soon as he finished speaking, his body instantly turned into gravel on the ground. At that moment, a gust of wind blew the gravel in all directions. Ing was not angry at all. Instead, a smile appeared on his lips. He was injured. He charged into Mount Olympus alone and killed more than 10 gods. In the end, a god took out a spear and pierced his body before he died. This spear was actually a holy artifact left behind by the king of gods, Zeus. It forcefully pierced through his incomparably hard body. "My lord!" At that moment, 3 men in black armor leaped over and knelt on one knee before him. "Are you all right?" Ing looked around and did not answer the question. "How's the Vatican doing?" Needless to say, Yi is definitely still attacking the Vatican. He might not even be their match. Bai Xian, who was among the 3 in front of him, smirked coldly. In his heart, his lord was invincible. He was an emperor throughout the ages when he was alive, and he was still a ghost after death. How could a mere mad Southern Yi compare to him? At that moment, a black shadow flew over from the west. When it landed, Qin Jian's face was revealed. "My lord," Qin Jian looked at the wound on Ying's abdomen in shock before he knelt on one knee and said, "The Vatican has been suppressed by mad Southern Yi." He quickly told him what he saw. When Yi Chun attacked the Vatican, he had been secretly observing from the side. Therefore, he knew the entire process like the back of his hand. Following his words, Bai Xian stood up in shock. Bai Xian was shocked. How is this possible? That Yi killed 6 angels in a row? Qin Jian shook his head. There's no mistake. Meng Tian narrowed her eyes, her gaze extremely fierce. Where's God? Didn't he attack? God isn't in this world. Ying shook his head and said, just like how Zeus didn't attack me, I'm afraid the 2 of them have already left this world. At this point, he chuckled and said confidently, I have lost this bet. The Vatican was quite a distance away from Mount Olympus. Qin Jian returned to report after witnessing Yi Chun defeating the Vatican and heaven. This meant that Yi Chun had taken down the Vatican first. Therefore, he had won and lost. No. Bai Xian glared at him and said unhappily, Master won this bet. If it wasn't for the myriad god spear left behind by Zeus, how could Master have lost? Not bad. Meng Tian smiled coldly. As the king of the gods, Zeus has existed for a longer period of time than that bird god. Since his majesty was able to survive under his sacred object, how could Yi compare to him? A loss is a loss. Ying Weiwei turned around and looked at the Vatican. Qin Jian, hand over your soul to mad Southern Yi. I can even afford to lose the world, let alone this mere bet. The Vatican. In the huge palace located in the sky above heaven, the palace was like a divine city. It was incomparably sacred, and in the center of the divine city, there was a herb garden. The herb garden was enveloped by a layer of light. It was as if a glowing transparent bowl was placed upside down, preventing outsiders from entering. Meanwhile, within the screen of light, there was an expanse of verdant greenery, and all sorts of divine medicines were being nurtured. These divine medicines were verdant and glistening, completely translucent, and emitted enormous energy. There was a small dark green tree that was only as tall as a person, but its trunk was strong. Between its leaves, there was a golden fruit that was surrounded by purple energy. There was also a red magnolia. The flower was crystal clear, like the most precious gem in the world, attracting one's attention. Oh my God, so many supreme herbs! Before I came, I heard that there was a sacred herb garden in the west with countless sacred herbs. It seems like this is the one before me. When Yi Chun and the rest stepped into the place, everyone was shocked by the scene before them. At that moment they could not even walk. Golden jade branch, void spirit herb, longevity fruit, dragon blood flower. The green ox's eyes widened as he identified the sacred herbs in the herb garden while swallowing his saliva. A Chinese powerhouse said with bloodshot eyes, Fellow Yi, if we bring these sacred herbs back to China, we'll definitely be able to increase the battle prowess of the Chinese cultivation world. The rest of the people were equally envious. If not for the protection of the barrier, they would have charged in and snatched it long ago. Ziqing Tsang of Purple Cap Mountain coughed and said, Everyone, if not for Fellow Yi, how would we have discovered this herb garden? As soon as he said that, everyone was instantly speechless. That was right. If Yi Chun had not killed his way into heaven and destroyed all the angels, how would they have entered this place? Moreover, although they had followed Yi Chun to the Vatican, they had not done anything from the beginning to the end. They had no right to get their hands on the sacred herbs in the herb garden. As if sensing what everyone was thinking, Yi Chun smiled lightly. I'll only choose a few of these sacred herbs. The rest are yours. Thank you, Fellow Yi. Senior Yi is so righteous. Everyone was overjoyed and their faces were filled with gratitude. Yi Chun did not hesitate anymore. He unleashed the great 5 elements restriction-breaking tactic and forcefully broke the barrier before him. He led the crowd in. The rest of them were rather obedient. Even though the sacred herbs were right before them, no one tried to snatch them after hearing what Yi Chun said earlier. Sky blue flower, one of the medicines that can be used to refine demonic beasts to increase their cultivation. Xiao He will be able to use it in the future. Bodhi flower, one of the medicines that can be used to refine to eliminate inner demons and prevent one's cultivation base from becoming unstable. The spirit well tree will automatically absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and turn it into liquid spiritual energy. Then, it can be transplanted and planted at home. Yi Chen collected some medicines that were useful to him or the people around him as he walked. Everyone, I'm done. Please help yourselves. I only have one request. You're not allowed to fight each other or even fight each other. Seeing that the rest were useless to him, Yi Chen said, at the end of the day, at your level, cultivation is more about cultivating your mind. Medicinal pills are external objects after all. You can't put the cart before the horse. Thank you, fellow Yi. Everyone could not help but be overjoyed. After thanking him repeatedly, they pounced on the sacred herbs around them. With Yi Chen's disguise, there was no fight. A quasi-saint ran toward a golden fruit in the distance, his face filled with excitement. At this moment, a cold wind suddenly blew past him. A black shadow quickly rushed forward and swallowed the golden fruit in one gulp. That person was stunned and could not believe his eyes. Damn, who the F***ck is this? End of this chapter. Chapter 1049. Under his gaze, after the green ox chewed the fruit into pieces, it spread its hooves and galloped towards the other holy herbs. Damn it, my ice spirit fruit! Be****, return the Inuan grass to me. Damn it, this damn cow is too cunning. Brother ox, master ox, please do me a favor and give me some soup. Even if you leave some roots, it's fine. In an instant, waves of curses erupted. If looks could kill, the green ox would have died countless times. The green ox was shocked by their gazes. Feeling guilty, he could not help but say fiercely, "Why should I return something that I picked with my own abilities?" After saying that, he raised his hoof and pointed at the cute little girl on his back. "I picked it for this girl, don't blame me." Everyone looked at the cute little girl, and their anger could only turn into resentment. That was Senior Ye's daughter. Would they dare to make a fuss about it? Yi Chen shook his head lightly and walked slowly into the distance. Just when he was about to leave, he suddenly stopped. His gaze finally stopped on a small tree about 3 feet away. The tree was only about 3 feet tall, and its trunk was only as thick as the mouth of a bowl. At this moment, there was a white fruit growing on it. What's this? Yi Chen's expression changed slightly. He took a step forward and looked at the white fruit at a close distance. It was not round, nor was it oval. Instead, it was strip-shaped, a little like a rolling pin. It's this fruit again. Yi Chen's heart skipped a beat. The reason why he recognized this fruit was that he happened to have 2 at home. However, the 2 at home were black and green, while the one before him was white. The first 2 were just seeds in the beginning. Later on, he used the immortal drift bottle to mature them. However, until now, Yi Chen still had not studied them thoroughly. He did not expect to see another almost identical one in the sacred medicinal garden. The only difference was that the fruit before him was slightly bigger. Why is there such a fruit here? Who planted it? At that moment, Yi Chen stared at the white fruit before him as his expression flickered. The moment he stared at the white fruit began to tremble slightly. Even though it was only for a moment, Yi Chen's sensitive divine consciousness still caught it. Afraid? Is he afraid of me? A gleam flashed through Yi Chen's eyes. This fruit is alive? The next moment, he suddenly stretched out his arm and grabbed at the white fruit. Swish! In that instant, the white fruit disappeared in front of him, and even the small tree disappeared one after the other. You actually managed to dodge my attack. Yi Chen squinted and scoffed. Interesting. I'd like to see what you are today. Flaming golden eyes, open. 2 balls of golden flames faintly leaped out from his eyes. 2 invisible beams of light shot out from his eyes and scanned the entire sacred medicinal garden. So it's here. Yi Chen's eyes were fixed on the ground in the southeast corner. He saw the small tree with white fruits earlier. Burrowing technique. He formed a seal with both hands, and his whole body drilled into the depths of the ground. Then, he shrouded the southeast corner with a huge divine sense. The small tree deep underground in the southeast corner seemed to have sensed danger and subconsciously wanted to move away. Major 5 elements forbidden technique condense. However, at that moment, as a cold snort sounded, the space around the small tree suddenly condensed into countless tiny golden threads. These golden threads covered the sky and earth, sealing the space. The small tree could not break through no matter how hard it tried. It was completely wrapped in it like a huge beehive. Retrieve. Yi Chen waved his sleeve and put away the beehive made of golden threads. Then, he returned to the ground. He took a step out and appeared in the main hall of God City. He raised his hand and set up a barrier to prevent outsiders from disturbing him. Then, he took out the golden thread beehive and removed it. Swish, as soon as the small tree broke free, it wanted to move away. However, a large hand grabbed its trunk in the blink of an eye. It's already come to this. Do you think you can still escape from the palm of my hand? A cold smirk appeared at the corner of Yi Chen's lips. I advise you to be honest with me. Otherwise, after the small tree was silent for a few seconds, an extremely ethereal voice came from the white fruit. Sir, what do you want? The voice was very hollow and ethereal. It was hard to tell whether it was a man or a woman, but it was extremely pure Chinese. 3 questions. Yi Chen chuckled softly. Firstly, who are you? Secondly, why did you appear in the sacred medicinal garden? Thirdly, your relationship with the Vatican. Sir, you've gone too far. The voice sounded again, seemingly furious. There are some things that you'd better not know. Otherwise, it might bring you death. You're not going to tell me? Yi Chen's eyes turned cold as he placed his palm gently on the white fruit. Tell me, what will you do if I break this fruit? Stop. The voice finally changed. There was a hint of nervousness and even fear in it. Everything is negotiable, everything is negotiable. Yi Chen said coldly, Answer my question. Sir, do you know what you're eavesdropping on? It contains karma that you can't bear. You? Ah. Before he could finish, Yi Chen's fingernails had already pierced into the fruit's stem. Subsequently, he let out a heart-wrenching scream. I said, I'm God Jehovah, he grunted immediately. Yi Chen stopped what he was doing. There was a burning gleam in his eyes. Your God Jehovah? If outsiders knew that the white fruit in his hand was the omnipotent God, their first reaction would probably be disbelief. That's right. The voice said in pain, to be precise, I'm the Tao fruit of God Jehovah. Before Jehovah left this world, he left me in the sacred medicinal garden, and the Vatican is just the soil that I use to absorb the willpower of the world to provide nutrients for myself. At this point, he began to threaten, Sir, I can ignore everything you've done in the Vatican or even in heaven, but you must let me go. Otherwise, you won't be able to bear the consequences. How can I prove that what you said is true? Yi Chen said, unmoved. Although he said that, he believed it a little. He could not help but think of the 2 fruits at home. If the white fruit in front of him was the Tao fruit of God Jehovah, then whose were the 2 fruits at home? Sir, you're going too far. The voice was unwilling to mention it. Yi Chen scoffed and increased the strength in his hand, causing him to compromise again. Mount Olympus. There's also a fruit like mine on Mount Olympus. It's the Tao fruit left behind by Zeus. If you don't believe me, you can go to Mount Olympus and find that fruit to prove that what I said is true. End of this chapter. Chapter 1050. Zeus also left behind a Tao fruit? Yi Chen could not help but squint when he heard what the white fruit said. He was surprised again. The so-called Tao fruit was the result of cultivation. In the eyes of Taoists, it was the result of achieving Tao. In the eyes of Buddhists, it represented becoming a Buddha. Thinking to this point, he stared at the white fruit in his hand. How did you know that Mount Olympus has Zeus's Tao fruit? Also, how many existences like you are there in this world? Whether it was God Jehovah or the King of Gods, Zeus, they were the most supreme existences in Western mythology. If the East needed to find someone who could compare to him, it would be Pangu. Pangu opened the sky, and his body evolved into a sea of stars. He was equivalent to a creator. The white fruit did not hide anything and said slowly, Zeus and Jehovah are both the highest gods in the West. Naturally, they understand each other. At this point, he paused for a moment. As for how many existences like me there are, I don't know either. Does China have them? Yi Chen's eyes flickered. He happened to have 2 such fruits at home, but they were not as ripe as the white fruit before him. Moreover, there were no signs of life. I'm not sure either. The white fruit let out a long sigh, however. I know that there were some people who became Buddhas in China back then. For example, after I left the first volume of the Tao Te Ching at Hangu Pass on my green ox, I ascended to heaven. Also, the founder of the Chinese Zen sect, Bodhidharma, went to the east from India to preach Buddhism and establish the Zen sect. He became a Buddha after he died. As he spoke word by word, the doubts in Yi Chen's heart grew stronger. His eyes flickered a few times before he lifted his hand to set up the major 5 elements forbidden method. There was a hint of coldness in his seemingly calm voice. I'll make a trip to Mount Olympus now. You know the consequences of lying to me. The white fruit said nothing. Mount Olympus. Yi Chen rode the green ox and ran all the way. The green ox said with a flushed face, Master, what are we doing here? He had obtained many benefits in the sacred medicinal garden under the name of the cute little baby, causing many Chinese powerhouses to be angry but not dare to say anything. Therefore, he felt refreshed every time he thought about it. I'm here to meet someone. Yi Chen sat on his back and lifted his eyes to look at the mess around him. A hint of surprise flashed through his eyes. It seems like Ing really came to attack this mountain, but why don't I see him? It would not be an exaggeration to describe Mount Olympus as a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. As far as the eye could see, there were ruins everywhere. It was hard to believe that a solemn temple had once stood here. Next, he suddenly turned around and looked at a rundown temple in the southwest corner. A man in black armor slowly walked out of it. It's you, Yi Chen said. Did you wait for me here? The person who came was one of the 4 corpse kings under Ying's command, Qin Jian. The former lifted a foot and stepped over, then looked at him deeply. You have won this bet. My master ordered me to wait for you here. As soon as he said that, he took a black bag from his waist and tossed it to Yi Chen. Then, he turned around and was about to leave. Yi Chen took it and took a look. No matter how determined he was, his eyes could not help but warm up. Inside the bag were the missing souls of second uncle, second aunt, Lin Tai, Niu Qingshan, and the rest. What surprised him the most was that there was even old Chen's complete soul. Seeing that Qin Jian was about to leave, Yi Chen eventually said, Thank Ing for me. I owe him a favor. He did not ask where Ing had obtained the soul. Qin Jian stopped in his tracks and slowly turned around. He looked at him expressionlessly. You don't have to thank my master. My master said that this is just a bet. He can even afford to lose the world, let alone a bet. At this point, there was no kindness on his face. Mad Southern Yi, when we meet again, we don't know if you and my master are enemies or friends. You better pray that you can always be lucky. As soon as he finished speaking, he had already disappeared. After the green ox watched him disappear, a strange gleam flashed in his eyes. First Master, I feel that this person looks familiar. Is his master the one from 2,000 years ago? You know Ing too? Yi Chen could not help but look at him. Not only do I know him, I've even seen him before. The green ox took out 100-year-old ginseng from somewhere and stuffed it into his mouth as he chewed. When that person shocked the past and present, I was still the king in the mountains. If not for the previous master's help, I would have been skinned alive by the immortal Qin army under that person. At the mention of Ing, even his eyes could not help but flash with fear. That person is a tough one. First master, you have to be careful in the future. Yi Chen smiled lightly and did not say anything. Instead, he turned around and walked to the largest temple in the distance. At the same time, he spread his divine consciousness out. Apart from meeting Ing and retrieving the souls of second uncle and second aunt, he also came to search for the fruit in the sacred herb garden on Mount Olympus. However, an hour later, he had almost searched the entire Mount Olympus, but he did not find anything. Yi Chen took out the white fruit and said in a deep voice, "I'll give you one more chance. Are you sure that Zeus left behind the Tao fruit here?" He suspected that the existence of the white fruit was hiding something from him, or that Zeus Tao fruit had fallen into Ying's hands. "I'm sure that Zeus Tao fruit is on Mount Olympus. As for the exact location, I'm not sure." The voice from the white fruit said, "In fact, you know better than me. How could the Tao fruit left behind by Zeus be found so easily? It's one thing for me to understand, but it's another thing whether you're hiding anything from me." Yi Chen smirked coldly. "I don't care if you're really the Tao fruit left behind by God. However, let me give you a piece of advice. Now that you're in my hands, I have countless ways to deal with you. For example, I can cut you open and erase your Tao mark. I believe that your countless years of planning will be in vain." As soon as he finished speaking, the voice from the white fruit fell silent. After a moment it said, "I'm only the Tao fruit of Jehovah. Even if you destroy me, you won't be able to kill him. At most, you'll be able to injure him." He changed the topic. "On the contrary, if you keep me alive, I might be able to help you in the future. For example, some holy lands with secret treasures. It's even possible for me to help you deal with Jehovah." His voice was filled with temptation. If it were an ordinary person, they would probably not be able to resist it. However, it was nothing to Yi Chen, who was used to scheming in the cultivation world. Just when Yi Chen was about to speak, his phone suddenly rang. "It was Yi-1, brother. The 2 fruits that you asked me to look after are gone. P.S. The plot of the Earth chapter will end in 2 days. The main character will immediately go look for the female lead. I haven't thought about how to end the plot of the Earth chapter, so I'll only have 1 chapter today. Please forgive me." End of this chapter. Chapter 1051. Tiannan, China. Following the spiritual energy recovery, the original Yi family villa had been widened and reinforced. There were people guarding this place every day, and it was established as the most important place in Tiannan. Anyone in Tiannan knew who the ruler of Tiannan was, and the Yi family villa was the former residence of the ruler of Tiannan. Apart from being slightly bigger, the scenery and facilities inside were maintained in their original state under Yi Wen's deliberate request. Not even a single blade of grass or tree had been touched. The reason being that Yi Wen and the rest knew that Yi Chen was a nostalgic person and did not like others touching his things. After Yi Chen returned to the Yi family villa with his daughter, the first thing he did was stand in the courtyard and look at the old scenery. Ever since his parents and Su Yuhan disappeared, he brought his daughter to the Kunlun ruins. Even when he returned from the Kunlun ruins, he did not stay here. He had been living in another villa arranged by Yi Wen. It was not that he did not want to come back, but he did not want to face the empty home in front of him. He did not want his daughter to be sad and miss her grandparents and mother. The old scenery was still the same, but they were separated. As if sensing his emotions, the cute little girl in his arms was unusually quiet. She blinked her big watery eyes and said, "Daddy, do you miss Grandpa, Grandma, and Mommy?" "Yes, Daddy misses them." Yi Chen took a deep breath in and lowered his head to rub the little girl's hair. "Daddy promises you that I'll bring you to Mommy right away." "And little brother?" the little girl said in a very sticky manner. "Little brother?" Yi Chen was stunned. He then said while laughing, "How do you know it's little brother?" What if it's little sister? No, it's little brother. The little girl was a little unhappy. Daddy and Mommy can only be me. If it's little brother, I can beat little brother up. Yi Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry when he heard that. He was secretly looking forward to it. Yuhan should be giving birth soon, right? Looks like I have to find her as soon as possible and welcome my second child personally. He put the little girl down after saying that. Daddy still has something to do. Go play by yourself for a while. I'll call you when I'm done. In the spiritual herb field at the back of the Yi family villa, Yi Chen looked around quietly at the spiritual grains that had grown into huge grains. Eventually, his gaze landed on an empty spiritual field. There were originally 2 small trees planted there, and the fruits they bore were exactly the same as the white fruit he had found in the sacred medicinal garden. But now, the 2 small trees, along with the 2 fruits, were gone. Yi Chen grabbed a handful of soil and said while frowning, "When did you realize that the 2 fruits were gone?" Yi Wen, who was standing behind him, bit the bullet and said, 20 minutes before I called you. It was the person who was in charge of guarding the spiritual field who informed me." "Who's in charge of guarding the spiritual fields?" Yi Chen asked. "It's the old Uncle Fu." After saying that, Yi Wen made a call. Soon, an old man in a long robe, who was about 55 years old, walked over quickly. The Gu family had given the villa to Yi Chen. Uncle Fu had been the butler of the villa since the beginning, so he was considered an old man. "Greetings, Mr. Yi." Uncle Fu wiped his sweat. Yi Chen took a good look at him and said expressionlessly, "Did you notice that the 2 trees were gone 2 hours ago?" "Yes, Mr. Yi." Uncle Fu said in detail immediately. "I'll patrol the entire villa 3 times a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and once in the evening. I saw them when I patrolled this morning." He glanced at Yi Chen carefully as he spoke to this point. He was terrified. "But they were gone when I patrolled after lunch." "So, you're saying that they disappeared in the afternoon?" Yi Chen squinted. "From morning to noon? Is there anything unusual in the villa? For example, someone came in." "Brother, no one will go in." Yi Wen interrupted. "To be exact, we'll be able to notice if someone really came in because we've installed the most advanced surveillance cameras in the entire villa. One can say that there's no blind spot in all directions." Yi Chen secretly shook his head. Surveillance might be useful to ordinary people or people who were not powerful, but it was nothing to people with great abilities. "Oh yeah, Mr. Yi, I recalled something weird now that you reminded me." Uncle Fu suddenly slapped his head as if he recalled something. "After lunch today, perhaps I'm getting old, I took a nap on the chair." He looked like he was recalling something as he spoke to this point. "In my days, I think I heard 2 voices arguing in my ears." "2 voices?" Yi Chen was interested now. "That's right. 2 unfamiliar voices. I'm sure that I've never heard them before." Uncle Fu could not stop nodding. "At that time, I thought that someone had come in and wanted to chase them out. However, I couldn't open my eyes no matter how hard I tried. It felt like I was in a nightmare." Yi Chen could not help but glance at Yi Wen. Yi Wen bit her lip and said, "Did you hear what they said?" "I'm not sure." Uncle Fu rubbed his temples and said while thinking, "They didn't talk fast, but I feel like I'll forget it as soon as I hear it." Yi Chen's eyes flickered. Every word and action of a person with a high cultivation base could affect one's mind. Even if one heard it, one would not be able to remember it. Uncle Fu continued, "Mr. Yi, but I vaguely remember that they mentioned God, Jehovah, Zeus, Tao fruit, Tao fruit?" Yi Chen's expression finally changed slightly when he heard that. "Anything else?" "No." Uncle Fu shook his head. Yi Wen's expression did not look too good. She said in self-blame, "Brother, did someone really barge into our villa?" "Perhaps." Yi Chen shook his head lightly. He had just discovered the Tao fruit of God Jehovah in the Vatican. Only the green ox and his daughter knew about this secret. It was impossible for the secret to be leaked within a short period of time. However, there was an accident here, and there were two voices. In other words, two people had appeared in the villa. The two of them must know the secret of the Tao fruit and were secretly monitoring him at the same time. Therefore, they attacked as soon as he obtained the Tao fruit of God in the Vatican. Apart from that, there was another possibility. His two Tao fruits seemed to have sensed something, so they'd fled first. A cold smile appeared at the corner of his lips as he thought to this point. Then, he said to Uncle Fu, "It's none of your business. You may leave." After Uncle Fu left, Yuan looked in the direction he went and could not help but ask, "Brother, do you think Uncle Fu told the truth? I can sense it if he's lying." Yi Chen shook his head. To be on the safe side, send someone to watch him secretly. Report to me if there's anything unusual. Yuan turned around to make the arrangements immediately. Yi Chen then inserted his hand into the spiritual field before him. A few seconds later, two skins appeared in his hand. The two skins gradually swelled up in the wind, revealing their facial features. They looked like two people. End of this chapter. Chapter 1052. In a downtown area of Lin City, there were people coming and going, and by the roadside there were two handcarts. The handcart on the left was selling tomatoes, while the handcart on the right was selling a basket of eggs. Selling tomatoes, fresh tomatoes. An old man with his trousers rolled up and covered in mud squatted on the ground, smoking a pipe and hawking. At this moment, an auntie with a birthmark on her face walked over. "Smoking, how much is a caddy of tomatoes?" "5 yuan a caddy." The smoking old man grinned, revealing a mouth full of yellow teeth. The auntie turned around and left without another word. "Hey, hey, hey, sister, don't go!" The smoking old man immediately panicked. He ignored his image and stood up to grab the former. "Can I give you 4 yuan a caddy? My tomatoes are very fresh and pollution-free. It's good for your health whether you buy them to cook or eat them cold. I say, can you not be so touchy? I'm still a virgin." The auntie shook off his hand in disdain. After hesitating for a moment, she said, "Forget it, give me 1 caddy." Only then did the smoking old man let go of his hand. He weighed 1 caddy with great familiarity and handed it over in a bag. The auntie paid and was about to leave. "Beauty, wait." At this moment, the boss on the other handcart said, "Look, you've already bought his tomatoes. Why don't you buy my eggs too?" The auntie was originally unwilling to pay attention to him, but after hearing the word beauty, she felt a little shy. She turned around and saw that the person who called out to her was an old man in a suit and tie with a big bald head. The auntie was stunned subconsciously. She had lived for so long, but this was the first time she had seen an egg seller dressed like this. Those who did not know would think that he was the boss of some company. Seeing that she did not speak, the old man in the suit seemed to be a little anxious. "I say, beauty, tomato scrambled eggs. You bought tomatoes, how can you not buy eggs? Mine are authentic farmhouse eggs. I want all your eggs." The auntie looked at the less than 20 eggs left in the basket, then took out a mirror from her bag and dressed up in front of everyone. After the old man in the suit wrapped the eggs, he said with a smile, "Beauty, there are a total of 18 eggs. They are 8 grams per caddy. Just give me 19 yuan." The woman didn't reach out to take it. Instead, she suddenly asked, "Do you really think I'm a beauty?" After saying that, she subconsciously puffed out her chest. The old man in the suit was stunned at first. Then, he said seriously, "Of course. There are many beauties like you in this world." Only then did the auntie happily pay the bill. With eggs in one hand and tomatoes in the other, she swayed her bucket-like waist, which she hadn't swayed for many years, and even hummed. The smoking old man looked at him with disdain. "Old bald donkey, don't you have any shame? If I sell fish, you sell pickled vegetables. If I sell tomatoes, you sell eggs. Do you want to eat me? What do you know? This is called business acumen." The old man in the suit said disdainfully, "You've been peddling for half a day, but you're not even as good as me sleeping." But you can't go against your conscience and praise a 50-year-old auntie as a beauty. The smoking old man said angrily, Are you blind? Can't you see the birthmark that covers half of her face? What do you know? The old man in the suit said angrily, Do you know what a white lie is? My beauty instantly made her regain her confidence. Didn't you see that when she left, she even sang that today was a good day? The smoking old man was so angry that he coughed. When he was about to fight back, he suddenly looked in the direction of the Yi family's villa. There was a trace of seriousness on his cynical face. That kid found out about our degeneration. The old man in the suit also said in a deep voice, We can only blame ourselves for leaving in a hurry. We didn't have time to take away the degeneration in time. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. In fact, it's also the two of us who are wrong. The smoking old man knocked on the cigarette bag and shook his head. In the end, you and I were reborn because of him. You didn't even say a word of thanks before running away. It doesn't matter whether we meet or not. The old man in the suit's eyes were deep. It's not good for him to know too much. Didn't you and I die back then because of the severity of the karma? Forget it. Let's go. The catastrophe is coming. It's time for us to deal with all this in advance. That's right. If we stay any longer, that kid will probably find out about us. With a faint sigh, the two carts and the two people disappeared from the downtown area. Not long after, the middle-aged woman from before returned. Her face was extremely excited, as if she was looking for the two carts. If one took a closer look, they would discover that the birthmark on her face was gone. Her waist had become thinner, and her skin had become fairer. She looked like she was only 20 years old. At the Yi family's villa, Yi Chen looked at the two swollen human skins in his hand. A few seconds later, a cold grin appeared on his face. Degeneration. What a degeneration. So I've planted two people. At the next moment, he took a step forward and disappeared from where he was. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in the direction of a downtown area in Lin City. He stood at the bustling entrance of the downtown area and spread out his divine sense to the limit, almost covering a radius of 5 miles. Finally, his gaze landed on the crowd in the distance. There was a group of people surrounding a woman in her 30s. The woman beamed with joy and said, I'm telling the truth. There were 2 old men selling tomatoes and eggs here just now. I ate their tomatoes and eggs, so I became beautiful. There weren't any tomatoes and eggs here just now. There weren't any 2 old men either. Did you remember wrongly? That's right. I've been sitting here since the morning. I didn't see the 2 people you mentioned at all, however. No one around her believed her. Instead, they thought that she was bragging or hallucinating. Yi Chen's sleeve glowed and he disappeared into the crowd with the woman. When he appeared again, he was already at the Yi family villa. Yi Chen used hypnosis directly. Tell me the characteristics of the 2 people you saw. One of them sells eggs and the other sells tomatoes. One of them smokes and the other is wearing a suit. The woman seemed to have lost her soul as she mumbled, No, one of them sells tobacco and the other sells suits. No, I suddenly can't remember, Yi Chen frowned. Then, he placed his hand on her head and performed the soul-searching tactic. However, to his disappointment, there was no memory in the woman's mind. It was as if she had mysteriously disappeared in the blink of an eye. What a brilliant technique! You didn't leave any traces. Are you afraid that I'll find you? Yi Chen smirked coldly and squinted. As long as you guys are still on Earth, I'll find you one day. I don't believe you guys can hide forever. End of this chapter. Chapter 1053. On the day that Yi Chen returned home, Yi Chen's eyes lit up. News of his battle achievements had finally spread out. The powerhouses from the Chinese cultivation world and the Western powerhouses' army held a decisive battle above China's sea. Under the circumstances where the difference in strength between the two sides was too great, the Chinese Holy Land, Kunlun ruins, appeared. Many peerless powerhouses respected Mad Southern Yi as the master of Kunlun ruins. The news was like a bombshell that shocked the entire world. They could not believe it. Before they could react, another series of earth-shattering news swept the world like a tsunami. Mad Southern Yi killed many powerhouses from the Holy Lands and secret realms. Among them, there was no lack of Japanese evil Master Tianyin, Indian Saint Harris, and the second prince of the Blood Clan, Rodney. After that, he led the Eastern Army into the West and completely destroyed the Western Alliance Army, crippling more than 30 Holy Lands and secret realms. Then, he killed his way into the Vatican in Greece and suppressed the Vatican alone. He forced the door to heaven to open, and the angels descended to kill the angels. He killed his way into heaven and destroyed 5 angels. When the news spread, there were still people who did not believe it at first. However, countless battle videos of Yi Chen circulated on the internet, including the video of the battle in heaven. At that moment, the whole world was shocked. Oh my God, is this something a human can do? That's more than 30 holy lands and secret realms. The powerhouses in every secret realm are godlike existences. This Chinese guy even killed an angel. I can't believe it. This world is crazy. Invincible, simply invincible. How did China give birth to such a godlike existence? All the countries were shocked. All the forces and secret realms were terrified. They gave the order not to provoke Yi Chen. Someone said in shock, "From now on, Mad Southern Yi can be considered the #1 person on Earth. This Easterner has suppressed the entire world." I don't think so. Another person objected. I'm afraid you guys don't know that there's a mysterious zombie man in China. He was the first to enter the West and defeated the powerhouses of various countries. Even the Blood Clan was subdued by him. That's right, I know this person too. His words were agreed by many people. It's said that this person and Mad Southern Yi split up. Mad Southern Yi attacked the Vatican, while he attacked Mount Olympus. What? Attack Mount Olympus? Oh my God, that's the territory of the gods. Countless people were shocked. An insider said in shock, "This Eastern zombie is even more ruthless than Mad Southern Yi. Not only did he kill more than 10 gods in a row, but he also destroyed Mount Olympus." It's said that even the sacred weapon left behind by the king of gods, Zeus, could not kill him. As soon as these words came out, everyone shuddered. It's fine that there's Mad Southern Yi, but now there's Ing. It's too abnormal. How did China produce so many monsters? Tell me, is Mad Southern Yi more powerful or Ing? Which one of them can become the most powerful person on Earth? That's hard to say. The combat strength displayed by the two isn't that different, unless they can fight. I hope they fight. No matter who lives or dies, it will be a great loss to China. At that moment, the whole world was discussing Yi Chen and Ing. Some people who wanted the world to be in chaos were openly stirring things up online. There was no lack of Japanese, India, England, and other forces. Japan, Shenmue Shrine. When Yi Chen's battle results spread and the news of the heavenly Yin evil master's death spread, many Yin Yang masters of the shrine gathered together to discuss countermeasures. Everyone, what I mean is that the Chinese cultivation world can't be the only one. We must think of a way to restrain the Chinese cultivation world. The deputy priest of the Shenmue Shrine, Iha, said with a gloomy expression, "The only way is to provoke internal strife in the Chinese cultivation world and target Mad Southern Yi and Ing." Mr. Iha is right. Now that the heavenly Yin evil master of Japan is dead, we are without a leader. If this goes on, we will definitely be left behind by China. Another person agreed. If necessary, we can seek help from the Yamata Divine Lord and the Beast Emperor from India. They are extremely ancient. We can ask them to join forces to ambush Mad Southern Yi and Ing. As everyone discussed animatedly, a deafening thunderclap suddenly resounded in the sky. The power seemed to be about to split the sky apart. The entire Shenmue shrine shook violently at that moment. What happened? All the upper echelons of the shrine were terrified. Before they could react, an incomparably huge foot descended from the sky and directly trampled the entire Shenmue shrine. A shrine was forcefully wiped out. The Patriarch of Hell retracted his left foot and muttered to himself, "Fellow Yi is right. The Japanese lack education. If we don't beat them up, they won't know fear. Chinese, you've gone too far." At that moment, a rumbling sound rang out in the void. At the next moment, a giant snake soared into the sky and spoke in human language. "I didn't manage to catch you last time. Don't you dare leave this time. Yamata no Orochi, my friend, you made me so tired last time. I'm here to take revenge on you this time." The Patriarch of Hell smirked coldly. He was not afraid at all. Then, the true origin energy fluctuations on his body completely erupted, and his divine consciousness connected with heaven and earth. "I've prepared a big gift for you." As soon as he finished speaking, the weather changed and lightning surged. South America. Inside Totem City, which was known as the Holy Land of the World, there were many ancient castles. If it was any other day, Totem City would definitely be visited by countless believers. However, it was extremely deserted today. That was because the high priest of Totem City had died in China's territorial waters. Moreover, he was killed by Mad Southern Yi. Faced with such a situation, Totem City chose to seal the city gates and prevent anyone from entering or leaving. Under the setting sun, a young man in white slowly walked over from the horizon. He was just like the legends, carrying a murderous aura. At that moment, all the sword-type magic treasures in Totem City trembled at the same time, as if they had been summoned. Totem City overestimates itself and dares to offend China. Today I, Yi Wushuang, have come to settle the score. Get out here. A calm and cold voice resounded throughout the entire Totem City, causing countless sword-type magic treasures to emit earth-shattering sword cries. Creak, as the city gates opened, 8 old men in black robes soared into the sky. "Ignorant brat, how dare you barge into Totem City? You're courting death." The 8 of them surrounded Yi Wushuang. An intense killing intent surged on their gloomy faces. The white-clothed young man's expression remained unchanged. "If you can force me to draw my sword, I'll return immediately and spare your lives." "Arrogant! You're courting death." The 8 of them were instantly enraged. Their cultivation bases were all peak supreme giants, and there was even a quasi-saint among them. How could they tolerate being looked down upon by a young man? Boom! The 8 of them attacked at the same time. Yi Wushuang's white robe fluttered without any wind, and an invisible sword gleam flashed across his eyes. At the next moment, the 8 of them stiffened and remained motionless. Their faces still retained their previous angry expressions. Plop, plop, plop. The 8 bodies fell to the ground at the same time. There was not a single wound on their bodies, as if they had died suddenly. Yi Wushuang slowly closed his eyes and muttered to himself, "I told you, if you can force me to draw my sword, I'll spare your lives. However, you can't do it." End of this chapter. Chapter 1054. Similar scenes happened in Australia and Africa at the same time. All the secret realms and holy lands that had participated in the Western Army's expedition to China in the 5 continents were dealt with. The Patriarch of Hell triggered the nascent soul tribulation in Japan and killed the oldest existence in Japan, Yamata no Orochi. Yi Wushuang killed his way into Totem City in South America and killed hundreds of people with his sword. Totem City was destroyed. Luo Tianya attacked the Dark Wolf clan in Australia and sank their holy land with his fists. The sky-roaming Dragon King entered Africa and fought the War-Hound's giant. The War-Hound's giant surrendered. In just a day, the division of forces on Earth changed again and again, and the names of ruthless people were remembered by the world. For example, Mad Southern Yi, the Patriarch of Hell, Yi Wushuang, Luo Tianya, and so on. China is indeed a big country in the East. It has many talents. This time, China has officially become the leader of the 100 countries. That's right. Putting mad southern Yi and Ing aside, just existences like Yi Wushuang and Luo Tianya are enough to sweep through any holy land or secret realm. At this moment all the countries were shaken. The remaining secret realms and holy lands sent envoys to China to express their sincerity. Meanwhile, Yi Qin lived in the Yi family villa in an extremely low profile under such a huge torrent. At that moment, there were formations set up in front of him. The formations were filled with overwhelming yin energy, as if he was in the underworld. Meanwhile, there were souls standing before him. They were Yi Ming, Yang Hui, Lin Tai, Niu Qingshan, and Old Chen. At that moment, they were listening to Yi Chen tell them what happened after they died quietly. They could not help but feel emotional when they heard the crucial moment. Yang Tian, Yi Wen, and the rest looked at Lin Tai, Yi Ming, and Yang Hui excitedly. Yi Ming took a step forward after hearing that. He extended his hand in an attempt to touch Yi Chen. Shao Chen, I didn't expect so many things to happen after we died. It's been hard on you. However, his hand passed through Yi Chen's body directly, making him look a little lonely. It's been hard on you, kid. Yang Hui looked sad. Then, do you know where your parents and Yuhan are? I have a guess, but I'm not sure yet. Yi Chen did not hide his longing at all. At this point, he stood up slowly and bowed solemnly to Niu Qingshan and Elder Chen. Elder Niu, Elder Chen, thank you. He owed this bow to Niu Qingshan and Elder Chen. When Shang Santian descended, it was Niu Qingshan who risked his life to hold up the rear, giving the Yi family a chance to leave. It was also Old Chen who blocked Kunlun Mountain alone. He did not fear death and blocked the Bai clan's martial monarch. Why are you talking about this? Niu Qingshan laughed heartily. You are the successor that I have chosen. You are like my nephew. There is no need to thank me. Not bad. There was a hint of relief on Old Man Chen's old face. Now that we've heard you say that China has become the leader of the 100 nations, we're very relieved. It's a worthy death. Yi Chen then looked at Lin Tai. Lin Tai knelt hard onto the ground and said while holding his head low, I'm sorry, my lord. I've betrayed you. Shang Santian had controlled his woman and forced him to remove the formation at the Yi family villa. It made him extremely ashamed, which was also the reason why he chose to die in battle. Yi Chen walked over slowly and helped him up with a wave of his sleeve. He sighed softly and said, You're right about this. If a person can't protect their loved ones in this world, what's the difference between them and animals? I've let you down, my lord. I can only be your slave in my next life to repay your kindness, Lin Tai said while forcing a smile. Who wants your next life? Yi Chen chuckled softly and looked at the few of them. This time, I've gathered all of your souls. I've also thought of another way to survive for you guys. Don't tell me that you can revive us? Old Chen's eyes widened in shock. The rest were excited too. However, Yi Chen shook his head and said, Your bodies have been destroyed. Even a god can't revive you. As soon as he said this, their eyes dimmed. However, you guys don't have to be too sad. Yi Chen changed the topic and said, I've thought of 2 ways for you guys. The first is to enter reincarnation again. However, I'll leave a mark in your souls. I'll find you guys 18 years later and unlock your memories of your previous lives. Everyone was afraid of death because even if they reincarnated after death, they would be a different person. They would not remember their previous lives. If they could recover their memories of their previous lives, it would naturally be equivalent to a true rebirth. At this point, he could not help but look at second uncle Yi Ming and second aunt Yi Ming. Second uncle, second aunt, you two don't have a spiritual root. If you enter reincarnation again, you might have a spiritual root in your next life. What's the second way? Lin Tai asked. Yi Chen took a deep breath in and said, The second way is for you guys to become ghost cultivators and cultivate the ghost Tao to strengthen your souls. In the future, you guys can reconstruct your bodies after you become ghost immortals. He paused for a moment and said with a frown, however, this isn't the right way. Moreover, it's extremely difficult and envied by heaven. Once you fail, your soul will be destroyed. As soon as he said that, the room fell silent. The few of them were secretly thinking. Yi Chen did not rush them. Instead, he sat down and let them choose confidently. After a while, Yi Ming said slowly, Shaochen, I've discussed with your second aunt. Let's enter reincarnation again. That's right. Your second uncle and I don't have much talent in cultivation. If we walk the path of ghost cultivators, our achievements will be limited. Moreover, we'll be your burden. Yang Hui nodded as well. She glanced at Yi Wen, who had tears all over her face reluctantly. However, the only thing we can't let go of is Wen. I'll take care of Wen. Yi Chen sighed softly. In reality, he was no exception to second uncle and second aunt's choice. Lin Tai said without hesitation, My lord, I choose to become a ghost cultivator. I'm not afraid even if my soul is destroyed. I'll enter reincarnation again. 18 years later, I'll be a good man again. Remember to look for me, kid, Old Chen smiled calmly. He wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, he said, What if I reincarnate as a woman? Don't worry about that. I have my ways to let you guys choose your gender. Yi Chen laughed out loud. Niu Qingshan said in the end, I'll enter reincarnation too. That night, Yi Chen appeared in various places in China one after another. Most of the places he went to were hospitals where newborn babies were about to be born. He sent the souls of second uncle, second aunt, Niu Qingshan, and Old Chen into the stomachs of 4 pregnant women. Although the 4 pregnant women were pregnant and were about to give birth, due to various reasons, their souls did not come to reincarnate. They were destined to give birth to retarded babies. However, after Niu Qingshan and the rest's souls were sent into the 4 hospitals, the sound of babies crying could be heard. Yi Chen kept his mouth shut when faced with Yi Wen and the government's inquiry. He even sacrificed 50 years of his lifespan to perform a secret technique to hide the secret. His goal was not to let anyone know where the 4 of them were reincarnated to prevent any accident. The price was that his hair turned white overnight. As for Lin Tai, he seemed to have sent him to Fengdu. There was energy that was suitable for Lin Tai to walk the path of a ghost cultivator. Second uncle and second aunt's matter has come to fruition. I've fulfilled one of my wishes. Next, I'll go look for Yuhan and my parents. Yi Chen looked at his white hair in the mirror. His gaze became extremely gentle as he listened to his daughter's even breathing. P.S. Chapter 4 has been updated today. Today is the last day of 2019. Thank you for your company for a year. I wish everyone a happy new year in advance. I wish everyone good health and good luck in 2020. End of this chapter. Chapter 1055. Although the final battle between the East and the West had ended, the shock it caused affected the entire world. It was like a heavy bomb had been dropped on Earth, and it could not be eliminated in a short period of time. As time passed, Yi Chen, Yi Wushuang, and the rest's achievements were completely exposed. All of a sudden, the name Mad Southern Yi was remembered by countless people and forces around the world. Next was Ying. This person's influence around the world was no less than Yi Chen's. However, after attacking Mount Olympus, Ying and his men disappeared completely. Some people said that when Ying attacked Mount Olympus, he was severely injured by the holy weapon left behind by the king of gods, Zeus, and died from his injuries. Some people said that Mad Southern Yi and Ying fought for the position of the Earth's number 1, and Ying died in the battle. All in all, there were many different opinions about Ying's whereabouts. Everyone had their eyes on Yi Chen. Coupled with China's support, Mad Southern Yi officially became the number 1 and reigned supreme in the world. At the same time, orders not to provoke Mad Southern Yi and not to provoke China were spread everywhere. Countless Chinese powerhouses were excited about this outcome. There was nothing more exciting than having their own country dominate the world. Many small countries in East Asia worshipped Chinese martial arts and sent envoys to China to pay their respects. Everyone thought that China would refuse. After all, this was an act of stealing, and they were competitors. However, they did not know that Yi Chen had agreed to all of this. At that moment, an extremely shocking news spread throughout the world. China's corpse Emperor Ying has invited the Earth's #1, Mad Southern Yi, to battle in the sky. There's no time limit. The world was shocked when the news spread. Many Chinese cultivation families were shocked. What? Ying is still alive? And he wants to challenge Mr. Yi? This person is just messing around. Since we're all Chinese, why should we care about who the so-called #1 is? That's right. This person really doesn't give up. In my opinion, there's no need for Mr. Yi to agree to his invitation. Countless Chinese powerhouses were furious. On the other hand, some people in the West with ulterior motives were extremely excited when they heard the news. Great, great. No matter who dies in the battle between two Chinese powerhouses, it'll be a huge loss for China. It's best if both of them die together. In that case, the Chinese cultivation world will lose its pillar, and it'll be our chance to rise. Will Mad Southern Yi agree? In less than half a day, the whole world's attention had been attracted. Some were looking forward to it, some were gloating. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Star Group finally spoke. Mad Southern Yi, the master of Star Group, will accept this battle. Since you want to fight, we can fight now. As soon as these words came out, the whole world was shocked. Just as everyone came from afar to watch this earth-shattering battle, they realized that Mad Southern Yi and Ying had chosen to fight in the sky 10,000 meters away. They actually want to fight in the starry sky? My God, that place is more than 10,000 meters away from the ground. In a vacuum zone, all gravity will lose its effect. Insane. Both of them are insane. They chose to fight so far away. Are they not afraid of stirring up a spatial storm? It's a pity that we won't be able to observe the battle from a close distance. We can only monitor it through satellites. Countless people were disappointed and sighed. That afternoon, Tiannan, Lin City, outside a wetland park that was close to 1,000 acres. At this moment, a dense crowd of people had gathered. Almost half of the cultivation world in China was included, and there were even powerhouses who were not afraid of the Kunlun ruins. The wetland park was also given to Star Group by the country. To be precise, it was given to Yi Chen's private ownership. Meanwhile, the name Lin City Wetland Park had been changed to Star Mountain. This would be Yi Chen's real territory. Only those who were related to him were qualified to enter, and this place had become a holy land for Chinese cultivators. The spiritual energy was like water, and there were many holy medicines. Its status was second only to the Kunlun ruins. Even though there were thousands of people surrounding the scene, it was extremely quiet. No one dared to make a sound. Countless pairs of eyes stared fixedly at the Star Mountain, their eyes filled with reverence and fanaticism. Swoosh! Right at this moment, the sound of something tearing through the air came from Star Mountain, followed by a huge sword gleam. The sword gleam was like a rainbow that connected heaven and earth. Its entire body surged with divine radiance, and there was a faint immortal glow. Meanwhile, the white-haired Yi Chen stood with his hands behind his back on the sword gleam. He moved with the sword and arrived above everyone's heads in an instant. Boom, 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 following a series of explosions, the tens of thousands of people present knelt on one knee. Their voices shook the sky, magical and powerful. Greetings, Mr. Yi. Tens of thousands of people roared in unison. The momentum was comparable to a magnificent army galloping over, causing one's emotions to surge. Riding on the wind on the sword, I'll exterminate the devil between heaven and earth. An old man stared blankly at the white-haired figure in the sky with an extremely excited expression. Immortal, Mr. Yi is indeed the reincarnation of an immortal. Fellow cultivators, please rise. Yi Chen looked around and sized up the crowd. Then, he waved his sleeve lightly. The people on the ground felt a strange power descend from heaven and earth, causing them to stand up uncontrollably. Many Western powerhouses hidden among them felt their scalps go numb, as expected of the Earth's number one. Such strength has probably surpassed a saint, right? Ziqing Tsang revealed his avatar in the sky and hesitated. Fellow Yi, have you really decided to fighting? As his voice fell. The rest nodded. Mr. Yi, you represent China now. You mustn't put yourself in danger for the sake of personal feelings. That's right, Mr. Yi. The reason why China is where it is today is all thanks to you. If anything happens to you, at that moment, many people stood up and expressed that they did not want Yi Chen to accept the battle. Yi Chen's current status in the Chinese cultivation world could be said to be a living immortal. He was supported by countless people, and his status was not low. Yi Chen could not help but smile after hearing everyone's words. Everyone, don't worry. This battle is destined. I'm not willing to back down, and I won't back down. Seeing that he had made up his mind, everyone could not continue persuading him. They could only sigh secretly. Yuan led Xiao Ye and the rest out and said worriedly, "Brother, how long will it take for you to return?" "I'll be back in at least 1 day, at most 3 days. You guys have to guard the house." Yi Chen laughed out loud. With a thought, he set up the sword gleam again and shot into the 9 heavens galaxy directly. Her graceful bearing made countless people bow down to her. The flawless chapter of Demon Nanny in the City will continue to be updated on the mobile game bar. There are no advertisements on the website. Please collect and recommend the mobile game bar. Those who like Evildoer Nanny in the City, please collect. Evildoer Nanny in the City's mobile game bar updates the fastest. Chapter 1056. The so-called universe was the universe in all directions, and since ancient times, it had been called the universe. Since ancient times, countless people had rushed to explore the space beyond Earth. They were all guessing if there were other planets with life in the vast universe other than Earth. In the boundless, dark, and cold Earth's starry sky, Yi Chen soared on his sword. His speed was almost 10 times faster than the speed of sound. At his mid-stage nascent soul true origin, the so-called gravity no longer affected him. As for breathing, it was even more difficult. After all, as long as a cultivator stepped into foundation building, they could abstain from eating. As long as they had spiritual energy to replenish themselves, they would not die even if they did not eat, drink, or breathe. After an hour of flying on his sword, Yi Chen finally broke through the atmosphere and arrived at the starry sky beyond Earth. It was a vacuum, silent and breathless. It was like a dark space with no end and only stars twinkling in the distance. In a certain vacuum, a man in a black dragon robe stood there quietly. He did not move at all, as if he was dead, or like a floating corpse wandering in space. Whoosh, 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 a huge sword gleam swept over. The man in the black dragon robe, who was initially motionless, suddenly opened his deep eyes. "You're finally here." Yi Chen leaped down from the sword gleam and took a step toward the man. "You've chosen a good battlefield. Powerhouses are not animals in the zoo, nor are they acrobatic monkeys. They don't need to be watched by others for their every word and action." Ying smiled faintly, his eyes as deep as a bottomless black hole. "Don't you think this place is suitable for the two of us?" Yi Chen smiled without saying anything. "Powerhouses are lonely." Ying closed his eyes slowly as if he was feeling something. He spread his hands slightly. "The mortal world is too noisy. Only here can I find the feeling of sitting alone on the dragon throne and looking down on the world. You must remember that you're not the real Emperor Qin. That one is still lying in the Imperial Mausoleum." Yi Chen interrupted him. "You're just Emperor Qin's evil body. In the end, you can only be considered his inner demon or the embodiment of evil." "No. Ying was not angry at all. He shook his head slightly. To be precise, I am the first emperor's ambition. Only I can help him suppress everything and eradicate the enemies. Yi Chen said, whether it's an inner demon or an ambition, since you've invited me to fight you today, what's the point of saying that? Look. As if he hadn't heard anything, Ying looked down at earth with a solemn expression on his face. Yi Chen looked in the direction of the sound and saw that the entire earth was enveloped by a halo. The halo was like a huge, colorful cotton candy. However, this ball of cotton candy was now incomparably incomplete, as if someone had poked a few holes in it with their fingers. The seal on earth is disappearing. Yi Chen narrowed his eyes and frowned. Last time, when the great tribulation of heaven and earth descended, great enemies from the outer realms invaded Earth. Many experts on Earth died in battle and humanity was on the verge of extinction. At the critical moment, the heavenly Tao transformed into a human and killed the great enemies from the outer realms. However, it also caused her body to shatter and turn into 9 stone tablets to protect Earth. The remaining power sealed the barrier between Earth and the outer realms. It was precisely because of this that Earth had been able to develop safely until today. With the recovery of spiritual energy and the theft of 3 of the stone tablets, the seal's power gradually began to disappear. That's right. Ying nodded slowly. 6 months. If this continues, the great tribulation of heaven and earth will descend again in less than 6 months. He looked at Earth with pity. By then, Earth will no longer have the power to resist. Civilization will be destroyed, and billions of people will become slaves of the powerhouses from the outer realms. What are you trying to say? Yi Chen said. Ying lifted his eyes slightly and looked at him steadily. If I'm not mistaken, you've already started heading to the ancient desolate realm, right? That's right. Yi Chen admitted it openly. After all, the passage to the ancient desolate realm was still in the other party's hands. Then, do you know why the ancient desolate realm exists? Ying suddenly smiled, a hint of mockery flashing through his eyes. Yi Chen was stunned at first, then he said, according to what I know, although the ancient desolate realm is an independent world, it's in the same parallel space as Earth. It's a little like there are 2 egg yolks in an eggshell, and these 2 egg yolks share the egg liquid. You're right. Ying looked at him deeply. Obviously, he did not expect him to describe it in such a way. He stretched his neck and said calmly, just as you said, the ancient desolate realm and Earth share the same roots, but even I don't know when it was born. At this point, he changed the topic. However, that's not important anymore. Just like you, I'm about to head to the ancient desolate realm. I want to take back what I've lost. Some people must die. 9? Yi Chen's eyes focused. Not just the 9. Ying smirked coldly, his eyes like lightning. There are also the remnants of the 6 nations. Apart from fighting you, I also want to invite you to join forces with me to destroy the ancient desolate realm. I'm sorry. Yi Chen interrupted him. Whether it's destroying the ancient desolate realm or ruling the ancient desolate realm, I'm not interested. I just want to find my family. Ying was not surprised by his rejection at all, as if he had guessed it long ago. Instead, he said with a spurious smile, what if I say that your wife is under the control of the 9 families? Where did you get this information from? Yi Chen looked at him suddenly with a hint of killing intent in his eyes. Of course it's my guess. Ying ignored him. I just want to tell you, Mad Southern Yi, that it's not up to you to decide what happens in this world. Fate is not up to you. My fate is up to me, not the heavens. Yi Chen said with a sneer. If the so-called fate wants to arrange for me, if the so-called heavens want to stop me, then I'll go against this fate and the heavens. Very well, since that's the case, let's fight. Ying's battle intent surged. I won't hold back in this battle. If you die, I'll go to the ancient desolate realm in the future to find your wife for you. With that, he took a step forward. The starry sky shook. Almost at that moment, The upper echelons of various countries were guarding the space agency. They stared at Yi Chen and Ing on the screen. They're making their move. They're finally making their move. Increase the quality of the image. We can't miss their movements. Countless upper echelons gave the order. However, to their disappointment, the image on the satellite screen jumped violently the moment Yi Chen and Ing fought. Then, it became completely blurry and turned into a wavy screen accompanied by noise. Those who like Evildoer Nanny in the city, please collect. Evildoer Nanny in the city's mobile game bar updates the fastest. Chapter 1057. What's going on? Why can't I see them? Report: the satellite can't capture these two people anymore. What? How is that possible? Similar scenes appeared in the space administrations of various countries at almost the same time. The battle between Yi Chen and Ing disappeared from the public sight. All everyone could see was the wavy screen filled with noise. It was this scene that caused everyone's heart to involuntarily rise to their throats. Who won and who lost this battle? It had become the focus of everyone's attention. The most nervous one was none other than China. After all, Yi Chen carried the hopes of too many people. Brother, you must win. Yi Wen and the others stood quietly on the rooftop of the star building, looking up at the starry sky. Their beautiful eyes were filled with concern. Don't worry. Although Ing is insane, it's impossible for him to kill fellow Yi. The Patriarch of Yellow Spring said calmly before taking the green ox outside to fool around. On the old site of Mount Olympus, an old smoking man and an old man in a suit stood at the peak of the mountain, their eyes shooting straight into the sky. The smoking old man took a puff on his pipe. Who do you think will win? I'm more concerned about whether the battle between these two will speed up the dissipation of the Earth's seal. The smoking old man looked around. Strange, where did Zeus's Tao fruit go? Time passed quickly. A day passed. 2 days passed. 3 days passed. During these 3 days, Yi Chen and Ing were still uncontactable. Various countries used all kinds of high-tech technology to investigate the starry sky, but they did not find any signs of life. Just when everyone thought that the two of them had died together, a sword gleam appeared on the satellite videos again. The white-haired Yi Chen returned to Earth unscathed, but Ying's whereabouts were nowhere to be found. Mad Southern Yi was back. The news was like rolling thunder, quickly spreading throughout the world in a short period of time. All countries were shocked. Countless people in China were excited. Yi Chen's return and Ying's disappearance. It meant that Yi Chen had won this battle. From now on, Yi Chen officially reigned supreme in the world. He deserved the title of Earth's #1. Tiannan, Star Mountain. Brother! Master! Daddy! When Yi Chen returned, many of his relatives welcomed him. They were filled with excitement. Yi Chen shuddered and said with a pale face, I'm going into closed-door cultivation for a month. Don't disturb me during this period. We'll talk about everything after I come out of closed-door cultivation. With that, he disappeared. Yi Wen and the rest, who were where they were, seemed to have recalled something. Their faces could not help but turn pale. They could tell that Yi Chen was injured. Ing is indeed powerful. The Patriarch of Hell took a deep breath and said with a rather solemn expression, the powerful fellow Yi is also injured. Fortunately, I didn't provoke him before. I'll kill him. Sword intent surged in Yi Wuxuang's eyes. He was about to leave without saying anything. Where are you going to kill him? Patriarch Yellow Spring hurriedly stopped him. Not knowing whether to laugh or cry, he said, besides, you don't know whether Ing is dead or alive. Yi Wuxuang was stunned. That sounds like it. Time flew. 1 month later. Yi Chen broke out of closed-door cultivation and immediately summoned Zi Qingsong and the other saints, Old Wang from the United Front Department, Li Ying from the Dragon King Palace, and the core members of the Star Group. Everyone gathered in front of him. Yi Chen was the first to look at Old Wang. Old Wang, how are the preparations for the University of Cultivation going? Old Wang said, The location has been chosen, and it's under construction. The list of new students is still being made. If nothing goes wrong, it will be completed in a month. It's too slow. Yi Chen frowned slightly. Let's speed up. We have less than half a year left. Sensing the worry in his words, Li Ying could not help but ask, Palace Master, are you trying to say something? Everyone looked at him in unison. Yi Chen eventually said when he met their gazes, to be honest, there was a great calamity between heaven and earth thousands of years ago. This calamity came from outer space. As soon as that was said, some people's expressions changed. Some could not believe it, and some were shocked. Only Zi Qingtsang and the other powerhouses from the Kunlun ruins had solemn expressions and did not say a word. Old Wang pursed his lips and said, The country has also paid attention to this matter, but we don't know much about it. All you need to know is that this calamity can almost destroy the entire Earth. Any technology can't withstand a single blow from it. Yi Chen said slowly, Our enemies come from the distant starry sky. They have a more brilliant cultivation system than us. The world they live in is more advanced than Earth. The atmosphere in the room turned heavy. Brother, is there no hope for us? Yiwen bit her lip and said, Didn't you say that there was a great calamity in the past? Didn't we stop too? Ms. Yi is right. We can survive the great calamity 1,000 years ago. There's no reason why we can't survive this time. Someone agreed. Yi Chen shook his head lightly. The calamity 1,000 years ago was an exception. It can't be replicated. Our calamity this time is even more terrifying than before. At this point, he looked at Old Wang again. Old Wang, this is the reason why I asked you to accept the Western cultivators. It's because the calamity that we're about to face is not something that China can withstand alone. This is a calamity that threatens the entire human race. We need the entire world to work together. In the days that I'm not around, I hope that you can communicate with other countries. It's best if you leak this matter, but don't spread it widely. I understand. Old Wang nodded repeatedly. Xiaoye noticed what he was implying, and she instantly said, Master, where are you going? Only Yi Wen and Yang Tian seemed to have thought of something, and excitement flashed through their eyes. I'm going to a very distant place. Yi Chen looked up at the sky with gentleness in his eyes. The date of my return hasn't been set, but I'll try my best to return before the calamity arrives. Then I'll go with you. Almost at that moment, Yi Wen, Xiaoye, Tang Ning, Yu Shasha, Yang Tian, and the rest who were close to him spoke at the same time. Yi Chen was their spiritual pillar. Naturally, they had to follow him wherever he went. No. Yi Chen shook his head and rejected. I won't bring too many people with me this time. You guys don't have to follow me. Look after this family for me and work hard to increase your strength. After saying that, he raised his head to look at Zi Qingtsang and the other powerhouses of the Kunlun ruins. Everyone, you already know the situation. At this moment, all personal interests are illusory, so I need you to cooperate with China and work hard to pass on what you've learned to the world. Rest assured, fellow Taoist Yi. Zi Qingtsang cupped his fists and said, This is a matter of life and death for us. I'm not so senile that I'm muddle-headed. I also believe that no one will dare to have second thoughts. At this point, he could not help but look at the people from the Tao sect, the demon sect, and the other high sects beside him. We won't dare to be disloyal. The others cupped their fists. That's a relief. Yi Chen's frown eased up as he mumbled to himself, Yuhan, Dad, Mom, and my unborn brother and son, I've brought my daughter here to look for you guys. Our family is finally reunited. P.S. The third chapter, the plot of the Earth chapter, has officially ended. Next, Yi Chen will head to the ancient desolate realm to look for the female lead. The follow-up is very exciting. Thank you for everyone's support. From tomorrow onwards, I'll maintain 4 chapters a day. Keep the updates steady. I'm begging for monthly votes and recommendation votes. The error-free chapter of Demon Nanny in the City will continue to be updated on the mobile play bar. There are no advertisements on the site. Please collect and recommend the mobile play bar. Evildoer Nanny Dad in the city, please collect. Evildoer Nanny Dad in the city's mobile game bar updates the fastest. Chapter 1058. A few days after deciding to head to the ancient desolate realm, Yi Chen did not depart immediately. Instead, he changed his appearance and began traveling around the world with them. The people who traveled with him were Yi Wushuang, the Patriarch of Hell, Xiaohe, the Green Ox, and of course, Meng Meng. The group started from Ice City in the extreme north of China and headed toward the southernmost part of the world. Although they were not slow, it still took them a few days. On the morning of the 5th day, the group arrived at the ancient Egyptian Sphinx and the pyramid. "Daddy, is this the pyramid?" The little girl in Yi Chen's embrace widened her eyes. She looked at the pyramids before her in shock. "It's so tall." Yi Chen's face was filled with love as he pointed. "That's right, my dear daughter. Do you see the biggest one? That's the Great Pyramid of Giza." The little girl struggled out of his embrace and walked into the distance, as if she wanted to take a closer look at the Great Pyramid of Giza. Yi Wushuang followed quickly. On the other hand, the Patriarch of Hell yawned and said, "Fellow Yi, why are you so free to bring us around the world?" The Patriarch of Hell was puzzled by Yi Chen's sudden idea. He did not show much interest on his face. After all, to the Patriarch, these were either rocks or desolate deserts. It was meaningless. He might as well look at girls. "I'm waiting for someone." Yi Chen smiled lightly. The Patriarch of Hell was stunned at first. Then, he seemed to have thought of something and said immediately, "Don't tell me you're waiting for Ing?" At this point, there was a hint of shock in his eyes. "Ing isn't dead? Didn't you have a great battle with him? He's close to immortality." Yi Chen smiled lightly and said slowly, "Moreover, I didn't say that he's dead, did I? Is he coming to the ancient, desolate realm with us?" The Patriarch of Hell deduced. Yi Chen smiled without saying anything. His gaze landed on his daughter in the distance. His eyes were filled with tenderness. After his battle with Ing left with serious injuries. However, before he left, he asked Yi Chen to wait for him for 40 days. This was also the reason why Yi Chen was not in a hurry to go to the ancient desolate realm. After all, the location of the passage entrance between the two realms was still in Ying's hands. Furthermore, his daughter was already 5 years old. Ever since she was born, she had never left China, let alone experience the vastness of the world. Therefore, he took advantage of this opportunity to travel around the world with his daughter. They went to different places to experience different cultures. In order not to be disturbed, they even changed their appearances. Of course, there were some who were ignorant during this period, but they were all completely wiped out by Yi Wushuang from this world. Even though Yi Chen did not nod, the Patriarch of Hell still took a good look at him. Clearly, he vaguely guessed that the relationship between Yi Chen and Ing was not as simple as it seemed. Yi Chen walked over and picked his daughter up. He said while smiling, "My dear daughter? Have you finished reading? We still have to go to the Acropolis of Athens. Daddy, I want to see the hometown of lavender. It smells good." The little girl hugged his neck and breathed out. "All right, let's go to Provence." In less than 10 days, Yi Chen had traveled almost all over the world with his daughter, leaving memories of the father and daughter everywhere. At noon on the 11th day, Yang City's Hanjing Street was a place similar to a village in the city. There was a coal mine nearby, so it was considered bustling with people. At the intersection there was a tofu cart. A smoking old man and an old man in a suit were arguing about the taste of the tofu pudding. "Smoker, I think the savory tofu pudding is better. Didn't you see that the young man said it's not bad? You lost. Pay up, pay up." The old man in the suit grabbed a young man and rolled up his sleeves to argue with the smoking old man next to him. The young man in front of him flushed red. Clearly, He did not expect the two old men to argue like this over a bowl of tofu pudding. "Didn't he say that my sweet tofu pudding tastes good too?" The smoking old man took a puff of the cigarette in his hand and said unhappily, "Humph, moreover, you scared the young man like that. No one would dare to say that it's not delicious. Since we can't decide the winner, why don't we get another person to taste it?" The old man in the suit knew that he was in the wrong, so he thought of another idea. "Don't worry, I won't disturb him this time. Let's compete then. Tortoises are afraid of iron hammers." The smoking old man agreed immediately. Then, he looked at the crossroads, obviously looking for a new target. At this moment, an indifferent voice came from the side. "Why don't you let me try?" The two of them turned around and saw a thin, white-haired young man slowly walking towards them. The young man was in his early 20s, and had a very ordinary face. He was the kind of person who would not stand out in a crowd. The most eye-catching thing about him was his head of white hair, which gave people the feeling that he had experienced something in the past that he couldn't walk away from. The moment he saw the young man, the face of the young man who was caught lit up. He thought to himself, "Finally, a fool came. Now I don't have to be stuck in the middle." What puzzled him was that the two old men who were arguing earlier revealed surprised expressions on their faces when they saw the white-haired young man. "What? You don't welcome me?" Yi Chen took a good look at the two of them quietly. There was no emotion on his face at all. "Since the two of you are selling tofu pudding here, you won't reject me, right?" "No, as the saying goes, anyone who comes is a guest. There's no reason to turn a guest away." The smoking old man chuckled. Subsequently, he brought a stool over enthusiastically. "Come, have a seat." Yi Chen did not feel awkward at all. He sat on the stool at ease and lifted his eyes to look around. Cultivating in a busy city is a good place. I guess this is what it means to be a hermit in the wilderness and a hermit in the city, right? I'm just selling 2 bowls of tofu pudding to make a living. How can I be a hermit in the wilderness? The old man in the suit said calmly before saying, "I wonder what kind of tofu pudding you would like, little brother. What kind of tofu pudding do you guys have here?" Yi Chen said. The young man at the side chuckled maliciously. "We have sweet tofu pudding and savory tofu pudding. I want tofu pudding with diced orange and black beans," Yi Chen said calmly. The two old men's expressions changed when they heard that. Clearly, they were shocked by Yi Chen's request. Tofu pudding with diced orange and black beans? The young man at the side was stunned. "Is there such tofu pudding? Why haven't I eaten it before? It's diced orange and black beans. Young people don't have much experience. Just because you haven't eaten it before doesn't mean that it doesn't exist." Yi Chen glanced at him coldly. The young man was a little unconvinced when he saw that Yi Chen was only in his 20s, but he said that he was a young man. Yi Chen then looked at the two old men slowly. "If I say there is, then there is. I believe that the two of you can fulfill my request, right?" The flawless chapter of The Genius Nanny in the City will continue to be updated on the mobile game bar. There will be no advertisements on the website. Please bookmark and recommend the mobile game bar. Those who like Evildoer Nanny in the City, please collect. Evildoer Nanny in the City's mobile game bar updates the fastest.